participants to DigitalFUTURES. Welcome back. Welcome everyone to the closing event of DigitalFUTURES 2022, One Planet Workshops. I would like to thank all of you, all the audience that are here with us today, the instructors, students, and all those who participate and contribute to the great event of this summer, DigitalFUTURES 2022 series of events. From the first ever digital consortium PhD platform to our traditional annual workshops, it is your work, your dedication to the program that continued the very foundation of DigitalFUTURES Association. It is your participation, as well as our organizing team, who worked tirelessly putting this together, pieces by pieces, that make the year's DigitalFUTURES such a wonderful experience. So thank you all for that. So this year, DigitalFUTURES, the topic is One Planet. I think at this very special moment, I think One Planet is the special topic calling for all the technology-based researchers rethinking our contribution to the planet, to the discipline. So this special event is organized by Tongji University over the past 12 years. And this year, the most special of these events, we co-host by UIA PPC. And today, also it's a great honor, we invited James Wright, who is director of UIA PPC, coming to join us. And also this event, academic support by ASC, Architecture Society of China, Architecture Society of Shanghai, China, and also National Engineering Technology Research Center for Prefabrication Construction in Civil Engineering, China, Academic Committee of Shanghai Digital Fabrication Engineering Technology Center, SFAB, and also Fab Union Technology. So thanks a lot for all the academic supporters to us. And firstly, I would like to introduce the fellows of DigitalFUTURES. Over the past 12 years, without their support and their leadership, we cannot organize such a big global event. Through the nomination and approval from the fellow members, we have two more academics join us this year, Professor Maria Kappel and Professor Patrick Schumann. Maria Kappel, who is the Rainham Professor of Architecture History and Theory, the Bartlett University College London, UCL. His most recent books, including The Second Digital Turn, Design Beyond Intelligence, The Alphabet and the Algorithm, A History of Digital Theory, and The Digital Turn in Architecture, and also including a sequence of AD readers he contributes. I think he is one of the most important theorists in the discipline. So thanks for a lot of support from Maria Kappel. He actually contributes two great lectures last year, and also this year, because we launched the new journal, Architecture Intelligence. The first essay is coming from Maria Kappel. So thanks a lot to him become the fellows of DigitalFUTURES. And Patrick is advisor of international PhD program with us over the past 7 years, and who also contributes a lot to DigitalFUTURES community with more than 7 workshops in the past 12 years. So this year, he also gave a series of 6 lectures every night, along with the workshop. So thanks a lot for Patrick Schumann. And also, I think, including, we have 2 female fellow, Mette Thompson, who is director of CETA from Royal Danish Academy, and also Areti Marco from IAC Barcelona. And Mike Xie, also over the past 7 years, he leading different workshops with us, and also who is the PhD advisor, contributes a lot to the PhD consultant. Philip Brock from ETH, NCCR, and Professor Achim Mangas here, who is the director, the Dean of ICD from University of Stuttgart. So thanks a lot for their contribution and their leadership to the community. And then I think DigitalFUTURES is the sharing platform for the education content for all. And we promoting international collaborations about a broad range of contemporary issues in the discipline of architecture and associated fields, with a particular emphasis on the latest computational design and fabrication technology, addressing broad ethical, social, and environmental concerns within our ever-evolving, highly technological world, and inspiring interest, developing skills and heuristics, and most importantly, focusing on the novel scientific progress in architecture, pursuing the advance of academic with inclusive, comprehensive, and innovative vision. So we contribute all these kind of our vision, and based on the conference, weekly talks by 3 time zones in the past 3 years, and also the yearly workshops, publications, lectures already set up. So this year's topic, One Planet, coming from Benjamin Bratton, who is a professor we invited 2 years ago and gave the keynote speech, who is talking about the urgency of reinventing social forms in the global scale. He also argued to taking the planetary procedures as a precondition of forming new worlds, proposing the use of geotechnology for self-organization aspirations. DigitalFUTURES intends to provide an inclusive platform for all architects, young architects, and students on the shared platform on the planet, regardless of race, creed, gender, or economic standing, so that none are excluded. It aims to establish the planetary classroom where everyone can come in together and exchange ideas, analogous to the idea of global brain. So in the past 3 years, we already upload more than 300 lectures to Bilibili and YouTube. So the viewers already around 1 million. So that's really a big number based on DigitalFUTURES platform. So this is the yearly event which we organize in this summer, including the PhD consortium. And in the middle of this consortium, we organize a Young Scholar Symposium, collaborate with UIA, invited young architects and researchers, make a lot of very interesting event. And we have 1-day CDRF computational design and robotic fabrication conference. And we have following by the 9 days workshops. So workshops is also organized, co-organized by UIA and DigitalFUTURES. So tonight is the closing ceremony. We will announce the DigitalFUTURE Awards, yearly awards tonight. So this is the workshops numbers we organized. We have more than 130. It's 133 workshops around the world, more than 320 instructors from 28 countries and 115 institutions. So the most special of this year, actually, we invited different coordinators. They actually, based on different language channels, coordinators channels, including English, Chinese, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, Turkish, Japanese, Korean, so on and so forth. So we have 12 language channels. So these are the volunteer and the organizers. Actually, I would like to firstly thanks for their contribution. So we have English, Chinese, different languages. So including a lot of familiar names, young professors, architects. I think I would like to thanks a lot to their, generous time and contribution to all the events. And also the organizers, we would like to thanks to all the officers, including the administrative officer from different university, different continent, organizer, officer, outreach officer, communication officer, webmaster, conference officer, secretary, treasurer, award committee, and publication committee as well. So thanks to all of you. Without your contribution, without DigitalFUTURE. And this is all the workshops you can see subdivided by different language channels. So this afternoon, we spend almost 6 hours to present the left column in Chinese. I think thanks a lot for all these participants. We spent a really great time, although it's after COVID. I think it's really fantastic and remarkable for all the workshops, presentations. So these are the numbers for the participants. Actually, the circle scale represent the numbers of students who participate to the event, because we are the organizer. So Tongji have the maximum students, and also students from UCLAA, so on and so forth. A lot of participants. They're coming from 736 institutions around the world. And thanks a lot for UIA and the AIA. I think in the UIA PPC, they actually support to the young scholars for their post-education. And we invite 4 groups of the young experts who give us lectures on 4 topics, including advanced fabrication robotics, AI, human-machine interaction, hybrid forms and virtual architecture, hybrid forms, and yes, and this is the 4th one. And also in the PhD consortium, we invite Daniel Bolligen, Matthew Thompson, Li Shiqiao, Isla Berman, Anthony Picon, Matthias de Campo, Mara Kapo, Kilmore, Liam Yang, Peter Chuma, Imoro Cole, Jack Wu, and Patrick Schumann. Thanks a lot for their PhD lecture series. Patrick gave 6 lectures. Li Shiqiao, Professor Li Shiqiao gave 3 lectures. I think it's really fantastic for this kind of sharing knowledge to the PhD consortium. So these are the weekly events happening in the past 3 weeks, week 1, week 2, and week 3. So Patrick just finished his presentation last night. I think he briefly reviewed his parametricism theory. And I think it's like he announced 15 years ago, it's like a review for all his theory. So, and also we organized CDRF conference. This is 4th year for that, which is, we have a lot of publication and the Scopus index. And next year, we're looking forward to apply for the EI index. So this year, the topic for the conference is hybrid intelligence. So we have more than 150 submissions from 27 countries and 67 institutions and 38 from China. So these are the presentation in the CDRF conference, 42 presentations. So most important this year, we launched the journal organized by Tongji University and the Digital Future Association. And on 26th of June, the inaugural issue was announced and published 15 articles from the representative scholars all over the world. So looking forward, all the researchers in the future contribute your research to this architecture and testing journal. So these are the professors, including Mara Kapo, Neil Leach, Patrick Schumann, Matthias de Campo, Professor Mike Xie, Aki Mangus, Matt Thompson, Roland Snook, and Lin Borong, Wu Yupeng, and we have like Zhao Yongling, so on and so forth. So thank you for your contribution to the inaugural issue. And the cover project is the pavilion from ICD. I think every issue we will select one pavilion, I think, which is evidence-based research process. So have a very special introduction for the cover project. So thanks a lot for your participate this closing event. So we would like to firstly invite Professor Chang Xing, who is a candidate of Chinese Academy of Science, CAS, and also who is a professor from Tongji University, the former chair of architecture department, who is one of the most important and prominent architecture scholar in the field of traditional architecture and the built heritage conservation and renovation. He has designed many well-known architecture and heritage projects and won a series of domestic and international awards for the efforts and bridge the past, present, and the future development, who is also the FAIA. And so today we have James here and Professor Chang, also the FAIA of AIA. So welcome, Professor Chang Xing, to give the to remark the the closing ceremony speech. Professor Chang, are you here?
Oh, thank you, Chairman Philip Yuan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to represent College of Architecture and Urban Planning, Hongji University, to welcome all of you to join the closing ceremony of 2022 Digital Futures One Planet with international events and the summer workshops. Afterwards, congratulations on the great success you have achieved up to now. Due to the pandemic, this year's Digital Futures series of activities have to be held online, but this has also contributed to the public welfare activity so far, with the largest number of participants in the world. Academics, scholars, and designers from all of the world were gathered here to launch this educational experiment that re-examines digital technology, knowledge dissemination, and the shared culture intersection on this one planet. Our school has carried out long-term exploration of digital transformation in urban planning, urban design, architecture, built heritage, landscape, and other fields, and has carried out key projects such as smart city, intelligent design, and intelligent construction, etc. At this same time, we also hope to do our bit to promote the development of digital technology in the world by holding the Digital Futures International workshops. Finally, I hope everybody here enjoy the learning process, amazing opportunity, and wonderful experience. Congratulations again on your achievements of the workshop. Thank you so much to all of you. We are here with us right now. Wish you a successful for another year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Changqing. Thanks for your remarkable speech to us. So, and thanks a lot to support from Chongqing University over the past 12 years. So the next, I would like to introduce James Wright, who is the co-director of UIA PPC and FAIA NCARB, who is also the senior principal of PAGE. So I know James in a short time, not so long, because I was just selected also as a member of UIA PPC. So it's a really fantastic group of people. I think just around 30 members, but from all over the world. Actually, we're looking forward to contribute more to UIA in a global scale. I think Digital Future is a platform for young architects and the young educationers. So we would like to invite James to give a remark speech. So
thank you, Philip. Thank you, and greetings everyone from Washington, D.C. It's my honor and my pleasure to add my welcome to this Digital Futures 2022 closing ceremony. I want to focus on the mentorship aspect of Digital Futures. I know Digital Futures is many other things, but I want to speak about that in particular. And I'm speaking on behalf of two organizations, the international component of the American Institute of Architects, and as Philip mentioned, the Professional Practice Commission of the International Union of Architects, known as UIA. I and my friend and colleague, Weimin Zhuang, serve as the co-directors of the UIA Professional Practice Commission. Both AIA International and the UIA PPC are very pleased to have connected with Digital Futures through the efforts of Philip and Michelle Montgomery of AIA International. Within the AIA, we speak of emerging professionals. Whatever you may refer to the young generation of architects, planners, and other shapers of the built environment, it's gratifying to see this current intense level of commitment to professional mentorship. I began my career after graduating from Harvard University's Graduate School of Design it was 47 years ago. And at that time, there was no such thing as organized mentorship. During my early formative years, I was probably exposed to more negative examples of architectural practice methods than I was to positive ones. Back then, getting into a positive mentorship relationship, it was largely dependent on luck and timing, who it was that hired you or supervised you, and if anyone was willing to give of themselves. Eventually, I was fortunate to come under the influence of a few gracious individuals who were willing to coach me, who led me and led by inspiring me by positive example. So my whole career, I've only worked for 4 firms. All 4 were very large American firms, yet none recognized the value of establishing a structured mentorship program. It's only within the last 10 years that awareness has taken hold that the profession of architecture lags behind in equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and that to effect the change, there had to be structured ways of encouraging young people into the profession and then supporting them so that they stay and they thrive in the profession. So to all of you who are benefiting from Digital Futures, I just ask this, recognize that your time to pay forward will come. And don't be surprised if the opportunity for you to mentor comes very soon. I urge you to remember the gift of time and experience that you have received from others, and to consider it your obligation to continue this new transformative tradition with those who follow you. What you are doing is different from any type of traditional mentorship program. You are learning from each other. You are sharing, and you're using technology to do that. Finally, I'm here to tell you that all of you, what you're participating is a fabulous example of global cooperation and collaboration, something all too infrequent in a world society today. So I applaud you for that. And it's my hope that this international effort to nurture young professionals will grow even stronger next year. And I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm James Wright, who is represent UI PPC and also AIA. So thanks a lot for your remarkable speech. And next, I would like to introduce Professor Wang Lan, who is Associate Dean from CUP Tongji University. And Wang Lan is a founder and head of the Healthy City Lab here, and who is also Associate Dean of College of Architecture and Urban Planning, Tongji University. Her research focuses on the healthy city planning and city design, urban development strategy and planning, and methodology, technology for urban urban research. She has published over 100 papers in major journals, and also 9 books in both English and Chinese. He actually played a very important leading roles in the international collaboration and academic research. So welcome Professor Wang Lan to give us a closing ceremony speech. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor Yuan. Professor Changqing, Professor James White, honored speakers and presenters, professors and students, good evening. On behalf of the College of Architecture and Urban Planning, Tongji University, it's my honor to welcome you all to the closing ceremony of Digital Futures 2022 summer events. As we all know, since 2011, the Digital Futures initiative has provided an international platform for both theoretical research and technological innovation on computer computational design and robotic fabrication among academic institutions. It has continuously encouraged collaboration and interaction internationally. This year, the Digital Future program has formed an unprecedented large community with instructors and students from all over the world, even though it's online. The digital revolution within the discipline, the shift in educational paradigm, as well as the educational platform has transcended boundary of space and time. I believe that you all just started a new chapter in the development of a global knowledge collection. I hope that the Digital Futures Association may maintain this momentum and continue the work that we are all benefiting from. This platform, I believe, has the potential to unite all of us in a planetary classroom. As the theme called One Planet suggests, where everyone can come together and share ideas, like some form of global brain. I think it's a very interesting and meaningful term. Lastly, I would like to thank you all for the support and the contribution to Digital Futures platform and program. I hope what you learned and shared this summer will continue to be an inspiration in the future. Congratulations to the instructors and students in all the workshops. And congratulations to Digital Futures on another year of success. Finally, I would like to say, hope we could see you all next year offline. Thank you. Professor Yuan.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Wang Lan. And I will have two fellow here, of Digital Future fellow here, Professor Achim Mangus and Professor Mike Xie. Would you like to add in some special words to all the participants? Achim?
Yeah, I think I'm still, although I've been part of this very long journey over many years, impressed how intense the workshops nurture, and I think an alternative culture of architectural education. And I think I can only congratulate first and foremost the team at Tongji, but I think every single tutor and participant that they are part of this journey. And I think it's really unique what has been accomplished, and I think there still lies a great future ahead for everyone involved in Digital Futures.
Thank you so much from Achim. I think Achim Mangus in our discipline actually play a leading roles and create a very special evidence-proof research methodology in the pavilion culture. And every year, I think we are looking forward to see what's the new pavilion from ICD. And actually, we can see the technology innovation. Actually, you're leading the whole big army around the world. I think it's a great pleasure to with your support and collaboration over the past 12 years. Thanks a lot to Achim Mangus. And Professor Mike Xie, welcome. Would you like to say something?
Yes, I would like to add my congratulations to all the team at Digital Futures and all the participants for the wonderful outcomes they have produced year after year. So I'm sure Digital Future will go stronger and stronger each year, and I look forward to participating in the future.
Thank you so much. And next, I think because Neil it's really early morning in Los Angeles. Neil, are you here? Are you get up?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Let me share my screen.
Okay, please. I will quit then. Okay.
So Thank you for I want to take this opportunity to really say a word of thanks to all the people who've contributed this year. I'm just simply scrolling through the workshops on our new website, and just looking at this, it is, every time I look at it, it's even more mind-blowing to think the number of workshops that have been offered, and to think of the range of different languages in which they're being offered. I think this is truly remarkable. I think that we are making history now. Importantly, with Digital Futures, I think the key, in sense, watershed moment was COVID, when Digital Futures mutated into an online platform, an online all-year platform. And that's an important, I think, development. Digital Futures is not something that is in any way territorialized. It doesn't belong to one particular language group or one particular sort of one particular time zone. Rather, it's it's an all-inclusive space of opportunity. It doesn't belong to one country, or indeed to one city, or indeed to one institution. Rather, it's a collective space of opportunity where we all contribute coming from our different institutions towards a global collective. And I think that's an important thing to stress. It remains a kind of independent organization. But it is, and the other thing I want to stress is that while this is perhaps the main event in the year, and the summer festival, in fact, Digital Futures is an all-round all year round platform where we're offering workshops, many different sessions each week. In fact, it's probably 6 or 7 times more sessions, more presentations and lectures during the rest of the year to this event in the summer. So there's a lot that's going on that needs to be also acknowledged that throughout the rest of the year. And it's a shared platform. And I think importantly about that is it's a way that we discovered that actually we can not only break through the physical walls of the classroom by going online, but also we could break through the social, the economic, and so on barriers to bring educational ideas to everyone throughout the world, regardless of which country they belong to, which religion, which gender, what age they are, and importantly, what economic status. And I think that the fact that we are offering this for free is a remarkable thing. So I want to thank the individuals who have been teaching these workshops for their astonishing contributions. This is really an act of solidarity with the rest of the world. It's wonderful to see how everyone is sharing their love of architecture with other people around the world. I also want to take the opportunity to thank some of those who have been involved in this process. And there are, I probably risk in some ways of leaving out someone. It's always a risk, but I do want to highlight those individuals who have really made a huge contribution to this. We've been working, the main Digital Futures group has been working on this since January. It's a group that's completely, it's like the United Nations, it's from all over the world. And I just want to single out, first of all, 3 kind of central figures who have been part of everything. Virginia Melnick, who is currently a researcher at the University of Michigan and also doing a PhD at Tongji. She is a veteran, shall we say, of many campaigns, and Virginia is really absolutely central to all the things we've been doing. She's also been interviewing as part of our Legends series. She's interviewed Denise Scott Brown and also Odile Deck, and next week it'll be Liz Diller. I also want to thank Gustavo Rincon, another one of the 3 key figures. Gustavo has been central to everything. He's a graduate of UCLA, and he's just finished his PhD at UC Santa Barbara. And it's his enthusiasm and dynamism and optimism that has been really carrying us throughout the year. So thank you, Gustavo. And the kind of the 3rd key member of the triumvirate, as it were, in charge has been Bhavleen Kaur, who's new to the team. But Bhavleen is she's a assistant professor in Mumbai in India. She's also about to start the Doctor of Design program at Florida International University. And but Bhavleen in particular has been responsible for setting up our tutorials, a most important part of this last year's activities. I also want to thank Mohamed Beju, who is for 2 things. First of all, Mohamed Beju has just finished a master's at the University of Tehran in architecture and computation. Mohamed Beju, first of all, was responsible for setting up our website, an incredible Herculean effort, but not without its challenges. It looks extremely beautiful. We have a few glitches, but it's wonderful to see that new website. And also, Mohamed is responsible for setting up the Digital Futures Farsi language channel. So merci, Mohamed Afarin. Next, I would like to thank Giovanna Pilaka, who was been also central to everything we've been doing. She's been looking after promotional material, and she has been responsible for two major things. One is setting up the Spanish language channel along with Alberto Fernandez, and also for designing and producing the very beautiful introductory jingle, as it were, that we've been using for for various ceremonies and also for the Legends series. Just to mention also Alberto, who is Giovanna is an assistant professor currently in Peru. Alberto Fernandez is a PhD candidate at UCL Bartlett, and together with Giovanna, he set up the language channel, the Spanish language channel. I'd also like to thank Angelica Poncio, who is an assistant professor, who's a professor in Brazil at UFRGS. Angelica has been responsible for setting up our Portuguese language channel, which has been a very significant part of all that we've been doing. I'd like to also thank Ahmed Hassab, who has been a long-standing member of our community, who has been responsible for setting up our Arab language channel. Aya Riyad, who is a graduate of the AADRL, a professor at Dubai, and a Doctor of Design candidate on the Florida International University Doctor of Design program. Aya has been responsible for connecting up with institutions and central to organizing many of the workshops this year. I'd also like to thank Ipsita Data, who has been working with Giovanna on promotional materials. She's in charge of the English language channel. Ipsita is a assistant professor also in Mumbai in China. And then I'd also like to thank the Digital Futures China for the contributions that they've been making. In the last 2 months, they came in and gave us wonderful support to the main group. And I'd like to thank especially Chao Yan, who has just been appointed as assistant professor at Tongji University. I'd like to congratulate him for that. And Cora, who has also been helping throughout the year live streaming. So this is in a sense the key group. I'm sure that others I'm missing out on, but it's important to recognize that we've been meeting throughout the year, every 2 weeks, organizing this ahead of the event itself. And I think that just to mention also that the language channels, which has really been the key development this year, this comes with a whole team of people. Angelica's team, of the Portuguese team, which is straddling not only Brazil and Portugal, but also other Portuguese-speaking countries in the world. The Spanish language team with Joanna and Alberto leading it. We also have our Arabic language team. We unfortunately don't have photographs for all of Ahmed's team, but there's a whole group of them there who have been promoting Arabic. And Arabic, in fact, was the first language channel that we opened. We also now have English as a language channel. We have Chinese as a language channel, and Farsi. There's a whole football team full of people from the Farsi team. And finally, to say that we're just beginning to develop language channels in a series of other areas. Zeynep who is a master's, has just finished a master's course in Izmir in Turkey. She's responsible for the Turkish one. Satoru Sugihara, who used to teach at SAC and used to work for Morphosis, now back in Japan with his own practice, has been setting up the Japanese language one. Sumin Ham is responsible for the Korean language channel. Sumin is teaches at SIAC. She's also a candidate on the Doctor of Design program at Florida International University. And then finally French, excuse the typo there, Philippe Morel, who is a professor at UCL Bartlett, also a candidate on the Doctor of Design program at Florida International University, is responsible for that. In fact, we're planning to open up a series of other languages within this. This started off, in fact, it was Philip's suggestion that maybe we should have also, in addition to the kind of universal outlet, we should have more local sessions. He established a Digital Futures China series of things. Our first session of languages was Arabic, followed by Farsi, followed by Spanish, and followed by Portuguese. We now have these other 4 coming online, and we're talking about introducing a Bangla session as well. So that's been very significant. I just want to highlight tonight something which really exploits that whole these different language groups, and that is to say the Legend series that I've been running along with the core team. And this has been taking place over this week. These have been, I suspect these are going to be the most popular of a lot. They've been astonishingly popular so far, really useful sessions. And the point about this is that we're going to be bringing these out in all 12 different languages. The whole idea is to be able to share this knowledge, to share this with everyone around the world. The point about the language sessions, about the Legend session, is really to bring in key figures from around the world, key figures who are either Pritzker Prize winners or who have got very significant in their own right, who have become legends within the field. And the sessions are really about discussions with various individuals. This is Peter Eisenman, the interview that I held with him. This was Odile Deck with an interview that was conducted by Virginia Melnick. She's also interviewed Denise Scott Brown. And then this is yesterday's session with Wolf Pricks, which is I think going to prove to be one of the most popular of all. We are planning to continue these. Liz Diller, Peter Cook, Tom Main over the next few weeks. So we also want to bring them out in our different languages. So to have Alvaro Caesar interviewed in Portuguese, and then to share this around. We're planning to, BV Doshi will also be part of this. So this is a series which is going on beyond this particular summer festival to the broader discussion about what's happening throughout the year. Also, let me just want to thank those who've taken part in other events throughout the year. We introduced this year a number of new initiatives, including tutorials. Bavaline has been looking after these incredibly well. And this is just a sample of some of them, but we're having 2 a month, and this is a very significant development so that our followers are gaining the skills that are necessary today. We've also had a series of, we called new hybridities, and I think it was based on this that we introduced the theme this year of hybrid intelligence. These were sessions looking at a particular sort of diaspora of different sort of language groups and bringing them together to share their experiences around the world. This has been, I think, one of the most important developments over the year. I also want to mention the Insider series. We kicked off with Akim Menges and Inside ICT Stuttgart, followed up by Inside MIT Media Lab and Inside ETH Zurich. And very significantly, these really was offered a kind of fly on the wall insight into some of the leading doctoral research centers around the world, and these have also proved to be extremely popular. I want to just also mention the Digital Doctoral Consortium. This was an idea that I floated last year to Philip, and we had our first session last summer that was hosted by Tong Ji. We've also, during the course of the year, have a series that have been hosted by FIU. And we're planning now to have a series of doctoral consortium sessions in our different sort of languages. So we gradually build up this. The doctoral consortium, like Digital Futures as a whole, doesn't belong to one institution. Rather, it's a question of everyone contributing towards a greater whole. And I want to just kind of mention that the two that Florida International University organized, which were hugely successful. One, architecture and philosophy, where we had a series of sessions talking about the key thinkers of the 20th century. And maybe the best of the lot was this one session that we organized with Peter Eisenman, Bernard Schumi, and Doina Petrescu, where we looked at Derrida and Cixous and looked at the whole question about deconstruction. This was really one of the highlights, I think, of the year itself. But perhaps even more successful in terms of followers, we've had something like 3,000 followers per session on average for this, which is really the most popular of all our doctoral consortium sessions, was the one on AI, neuroscience, and architecture, which is, I think, really cutting new ground and opening up new debates. So I'm really grateful to all those who've been organizing, been part of this organization, who've helped to make this happen and really make this a very special year. I think this is a year when Digital Futures has come of age. It's become truly international, truly language-based, not at all based on any one particular university, but rather a sharing platform for everyone, which has been hugely significant. And maybe just also the thing that's also indicated that's been so important here within this has been the growth in terms of the viewers. we have had an astonishing growth. Last year, we had the lecture by Slavoj Žižek got 6,000 or so views, but this year we're breaking new ground. This was the first session of our Arabic language one, and really it was so encouraging to see how many followers we have. We're 20,603 views, and it's going up by the day. We're absolutely breaking new ground in terms of numbers. The second most popular one was the session on by Joscha Bach as part of the Digital Futures of FIU DDES collaboration for the doctoral consortium. Joscha Bach had over 20,000 views. So again, we're really, I feel, having an impact now. But maybe the one that most of all that we should be looking at is the clay 3D printing session, where we've had almost 64,000 views. So I just want to finish off by thanking all the workshop instructors for the incredible contribution you've made. Really, it's a very generous gesture to thank the team that's been working throughout the year, this completely international United Nations team, as it were, that's been working on it. And we look forward to seeing you again next year. There'll be more doctoral consortium sessions from FIU. There'll be more sessions in terms of especially the language series session. So I would like to stop sharing this point and thank you and pass it on to you.
Thank you so much. So before the award announcement, shall we take a group picture together? Because everyone here is a unique opportunity for all of us. So thank you so much for your participate to the closing ceremony. So Beverly, could you help to take the group picture? Thank you. Maybe different pages. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Changqing. Thank you, James. And thanks a lot for your participants. I think it's a great honor. We'll go to the award ceremony. So I would like to invite Beverly. Would you like to moderate next session?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Philippe. Thank you so much, Neil, as well. And of course, everyone who's joined here today. I think this brings a lot of responsibility for me because this is the most important part of the year, the awards. So let me begin by just sharing my screen and as well as inviting Professor Mike Shi. So let me just take this opportunity also to just give a brief introduction about. He's an Australian Laureate Fellow, Director of Centre for Innovation Structure and Materials, and Fellow of Australian Academy of Technology and Engineering. He is a Distinguished Professor of RMIT University and an Australian Research Council Laureate Fellow. He and his co-worker pioneered and established the Evolutionary Structural Optimization, ESO, and bidirectional evolutionary structural optimization, BISO methods, which are widely used by designers and researchers around the globe to create many lightweight and high-performance structures and materials. Professor Mike Shi, please take this chance to just give away the awards, the project awards for this year.
Thank you, Beverly, for your introduction. It is my great honor and a pleasure to announce Digital Futures 2022 Project Award. This year, there are 3 projects which have been chosen for this very prestigious award. And the first project is entitled Mason Fiber. It's a design led by the team. It's a project designed by a team led by Professor Aki Mangas from ICD Institute for Computational Design at the University of Stuttgart. I would like to invite the project team to make a brief presentation.
Okay, thank you. Please just allow me to share my screen. Okay, I hope you can see this. Good, fantastic. So thanks a lot. We are truly honored to receive this award. And I think for me, it's important to say that I'm receiving the award on behalf of a large team of more than a dozen researchers, not only from the Institute for Computation Design and Construction.
We cannot see your screen. Please share again. Ahim.
Sorry.
We can see.
We can
see the screen. We can see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, see.
Perfect. I was just about to say that I think it's important to say that this project is a team effort, and of course the award goes to the entire team, not only from the Institute of Computational Design and Construction, but also from the institute that is led by Professor Jan Knippers, ITKE, and the larger cluster of excellence in CDC, in which all these researchers are embedded. I think I was asked to prepare a little presentation about the project, so I think it's important to mention what motivates us to design this project for the Venice Biennale, which was, of course, the curatorial question that we have been asked by Hashim Sakis, and this is how will we live together? You know, this was the theme, and of course, because our project was in the main exhibition in the Arsenale, we were asked to basically reflect on the question, how will we live together, also from a technical perspective. We began investigating, of course, this situation a bit more closely. And I think what was interesting is that if we begin to study, for example, the United Nations global status reports, we see that, we are kind of facing the truly grand challenge that we will have to double the amount of building stock as architects and designers and engineers that are involved in the building industry in the next 30 years. So what you can see on the left is actually the UN statistics for buildings existing on the planet today, which amounts to about 230 billion square meters. And this is what needs to be built, which is actually an interesting statistic also when we begin to look and more closely where these things are going to be built, but there's still a large share in the so-called developed world, but of course also across the globe. So if we bear this almost unimaginable volume of, let's say, floor area that needs to be realized in the next 30 years of 230 billion square meters in mind, and we realize that more and more of the detrimental environmental effect that building practice has on the planet is actually in the construction process itself, so in building construction and not building operation, we think that we need radically different models for actually how we build. And this is what we intended to reflect on with Maison Fibre, a kind of alternative model for how we can actually, on the one hand, accomplish this grand societal challenge of building a lot in a very short amount of time with a different model of construction, design and construction, which is based in biology, where we see very different ways of how you actually can build something based on principles like morphological differentiation and anisotropic materials, and of course, the integration of form, material, structure. And what is interesting is that almost everything in nature is built with fibers. And I think just conceptually, fibers are, of course, suited for building a lot in a very short amount of time, because you can really utilize the material to the maximum, because you can finely tune every arrangement, and through that, basically come up with the design that's at the same time form and structure. So we have investigated that for many years across many different projects. So we see also Maison Fibre as a kind of development step in this long lineage of investigating fibrous tectonics and fibrous construction. But what we really were interested in is this time is not so much designing a project, but more designing a model. In the same way that we can say Maison Domino was a model for 20th century architecture, but an architecture that is built on concrete construction, actually with isotropic materials, with no morphological differentiation. Mesofiber was meant to be a model for rethinking this, and also as kind of stimulation. So by no means there's a claim that we will solve these big challenges with something like Mesofiber, but we urgently need alternative models, and this is what we wanted to provide as a stimulation for the audience. One aspect that is critical, of course, is that we utilize digital technologies to enable this. So the entire project is actually based on a very humble, small robotic platform that could build a human habitat in a very short amount of time, based on a kind of differentiable module that then is basically sort of designed to become an habitat. So what we did for the Biennale was basically just covering the same floor area as Maison Domino, but integrating the existing building stock of the Arsenale, these two big columns, as part of the load-bearing structure, also acknowledging that, of course, building stock and the extension of building stock is an important future aspect. And then we showcased how dealing with fibers, you have to design every single centimeter of the more than 150 kilometers of carbon and glass fiber that are in this project. What's maybe also important to say is that this, in a sense, is a building that needed to comply with the Italian building code. So all the cantilevers, everything is designed and engineered to accomplish the full 3.5 kilonewton per square meter. There was not, so it's not an art piece in that sense. And I think for us that was also important because it showcases, let's say, the performance potential that these fiber structures have. Maybe just as a quick summary, what we can also see is that with this different model of constructing, we can actually build 50 times lighter than the Rhone model for the 20th century. And of course, that's the kind of, let's say, improvement that we need in order to tackle those societal challenges. So 10 times, 50 times lighter, less material. And I think what you can see here is that really it's a truly fiber structure. So all the floors, everything is only built from fibers. And the most important aspect is, of course, that this is not only a technical accomplishment, but it's also, I think, heralding a new material culture that is very different than the 20th century architecture that celebrated also an aesthetic that is based on a very different logic of isotropic materials. So here you can see Mesofibre in the Arsenale, the two stories with the two cantilevering sides. There was, of course, a fully inhabitable upper floor, which also housed our material culture exhibition that you can see here on the left. And the main idea was actually to stimulate the visitor's mind to a kind of radically different way of building, also basically putting the walls in the central doorway that actually carry the upper floor to give them the kind of importance that we feel they had for this project. I think it's important to say that such a, let's say, different way of considering tectonics, considering the integration of material, form, and structure, of course, leads to a multi-scalar revisiting of what we consider architectural, I would say, conventions, from the detail of a joint all the way up to the spatial configurations, and also I think the modularity of the resulting structure. So with this, I would like to wrap up this short presentation. I think what is really interesting for us is also that this model was truly instrumental in, for example, also a building that we're currently realizing, which is a kind of a university building, a textile research center, where we can already take the next step of implementing this innovation on the full scale. This is currently on site and will be finished actually this October. So thanks a lot for awarding the Maison Fibre the award. We are truly honored by this, and I would just like to wrap up the presentation by a very short video, which is a bit more atmospheric than what I could deliver on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Akim Menges, for your very impressive presentation, and warmest congratulations to you and your team for the wonderful work. The second project which won the Digital Futures 2022 Project Award is entitled Stratus 3D Concrete Printed Masonry Bridge. It's a project designed by Block Research Group and Zaha Hadid Architect Computation and Design Group. May I invite the project team to make a presentation, please?
Thank you, Mike. Let me share my screen. Is visible?
Yes,
Yeah, we can
yes,
see
we
it.
can see now.
Right. Of Digital Futures to make this award. It's a very important recognition for us, and in fact, also I'm kind of representing.
I think, yeah, Sajay, your screen is breaking and voice as well. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah, we can
Can you
test. Yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks again for the organizers to award us this important recognition. I'm representing two of the four institutions that were part of the creation of Striatus, design and creation. So I'm representing Block Research Group on the one hand as a PhD candidate, and also as the Architects Computation and Design Group. But like the previous project, this is truly a collaborative project, from design conception to execution. So which is perhaps one of the hallmarks of like contemporary design, that it is indeed cumulative and collaborative, and breaking the mold of like a linear design to production sequence. So in that sense, I would also, it's important to recognize that the first time like we did actually come together as two groups, like with Philippe Bloch and Bloch Research Group, and Zaha, the architects, was like back in 2017 at one of the Tongji workshops, the Digital Futures workshop. Like, I mean, of course, we had collaborated, had conversation before, but this is the first time like the two teams actually kind of came together in exchange of ideas and tools and so on. And also the presence of students motivated a lot of rapid iteration and pushing of boundaries. So Striatus is, we consider, is an important milestone in responsible design, because it's a arched, fully unreinforced masonry footbridge, meaning there is no steel or reinforcement neither in the concrete ink nor as post-tension cables. And it's also assembled dry without mortar or without any glue. And one of the reasons we do think that this is an important milestone is because of the way we went about designing this. Like from its conception, was very goal-oriented. We wanted to showcase a few things, and one of those important goals was the idea that high-performance shapes is an important criterion. A performance-oriented design is an important challenge, as Akim also presented. How can we design low energy, low embodied carbon, thin, lightweight structures which have high strength, have large spans, and very high endurance? And when you think of these things, like perhaps the first thing that comes to mind is maybe automobile design and so on. And we probably don't think of like ancient masonry structures as being one of these high performance structures. In fact, they're extremely high performance and also high endurance, given by evident by the fact that they've lasted hundreds of years. And Philippe Bloch and the Bloch Research Group has been kind of pioneering adaptation and extension of these principles of masonry design to meet the challenges of the construction industry, particularly conservation of material. And they've shown time and again that like we can just by inclusion of these geometric principles of design and of masonry construction and upgrading that through computational design, we can achieve, go a long way in reducing our material footprint. And the important precedent to Striatus in that sense is this project by the Bloch Research Group in 2016 in the Venice Biennale. As you can see, it's extremely thin, like in some areas, they're only 5 centimeters thick, and you can already see it spans a very large distance. And so 2 of these columns are the same columns that perhaps Hakim's project was spanning. And so even this room is kind of important historic venue for computational design and showcasing that. So and Striatus kind of tries to extend that principle to 3D concrete printing. In other words, trying to see striatus is a kind of masonry structure with artificial stone or 3D concrete printed blocks, seeing it as artificially printed synthesized stone. And of course, like incorporates like some of the ancient techniques of stereotomy, and also it's aligned with the kind of history of Venice and all the arch bridges of Venice. So two main goals that we wanted to highlight was that we shouldn't throw the baby and the bathwater out, like when it comes to concrete. There are many positive things to concrete, including a ubiquitous supply chain, thermal performance, and also a very deep, well understood chemistry, which can be tailored and create new materials all the time. And so one important step to sustainable use of concrete is, we believe, is to digitize it. And this project is a milestone in that sense, trying to digitize the use of design for concrete and design for production of concrete as well. So we wanted to extend that principle to include principles of circularity, particularly reduction of material use, repair, reuse, and recycle. And another important thing that we wanted to do with the project was to propose a new alternative language to the 20th century use of concrete, which is a cast language, a solid language for concrete. So in this sense, we wanted to establish a new language for enduring and well-established material. And to do so, we wanted to combine it with the ancient wisdom and masonry, along with new digital and robotic manufacturing tools, digital design and robotic manufacturing tools. And in all of these things, like we wanted to emphasize that unreinforced masonry design and 3D concrete printing is a match made in heaven. Also, from the point of view of 3D concrete printing in itself, this is a very good match, because despite the extraordinary interest and rapid growth in the technology, this graph ends in 2015, but in the last 7 years, this curve has only exponentially grown. Despite that, we have despite that, like we can notice that design aspects have been neglected, that the growth in the design, in the technology has been focused on material and manufacturing and process engineering, and architectural design in itself has been somewhat neglected. So that's another item that aspect we wanted to address, that unreinforced masonry can be used as a deep analogy to 3D printing, in the sense that masonry is basically additive manufacturing with large scale blocks. And so we can think of like 3D concrete printing as a kind of miniaturized masonry. And more importantly, we can also adopt and adapt like techniques of design and construction from masonry to 3D concrete printing. And in particular, in this project, we wanted to adapt like so-called pitch brick or tilted plane masonry, and the way like they have developed spatially coherent blending of brick courses, like each course is slightly different from the previous, thereby giving us the curvature. And also like these historic techniques of like cross-wall construction, which also rely on like inclining the plane of laying the brick courses, and each course being slightly different from the previous one. And so these are the background goals that we try and integrate it into to a kind of coherent computational design and construction pipeline. And there were three particular frameworks like that were constantly in interaction. One was the Compass framework from the Block Research Group for structural design and structural evaluation and so on. And our own framework at Zadi, the architect, called Z-Space, and Incremental 3D. They had their own framework for developing the fabrication side of things. And like these three were seamlessly kind of always in communication with each other. So the project was executed over 6 months in the height of COVID restrictions, and the project teams never actually physically met. until like the project was completed. And so that's another feature. So and what we wanted to set out was like a design and fabrication friendly framework. So the designers are free to manipulate like the so-called graph structure and all the things needed for construction is carried out in the background, including the stereotomy and preparation of the 3D files and printing files and so on. So this can be kind of summarized in this kind of graphical flow chart. So the pink part relates to the design and of the shape, overall shape, and then the stereotomy and also the print path synthesis, and then 3D printing. It seems like a linear process, but interspersed with each one of those is actually a deep, each of the blue parts, for example, is its own kind of deep work process, like best fit thrust network analysis, and also discrete element analysis for evaluation of the structural stability and so on, and finite element analysis for cross-sectional analyzing cross-sectional stability and so on. So like visually, that's what it means. Like we have shape design for the top row, and the bottom row is like 3D printing and realization. And all of this kind of enabled by standing on the shoulder of giants, or like a long cumulative development of research, not only by the current team, but over a decade at least. And the first and foremost of this is, of course, Philippe Bloch's seminal thrust network analysis PhD from MIT in 2009, and several others that came after that. And also important seminal piece of precedent is the Armadillo Stonewall, as I previously mentioned, and also the PhD dissertation of the late Matthias Rippmann, which was very, very influential in the development of Rhino Vault and everything else that came after that. And to that, like we may also made some humble contributions, like first and foremost, like kind of show identifying and articulating the relevance of masonry to 3D concrete printing, and also developing some new methods borrowed from the field of optimal transport, so-called, and then using that to create spatially coherent print path generation and other such incorporation of printing constraints. And likewise, the structural design, evaluation, and verification in itself is like another long list of prior work that contributes to the success of this project. And similarly, also for 3D concrete printing, material testing, and so on. So, and like on just on the shape design aspect, like again, to reinforce, like the key innovations has been to kind of have this masonry logic apply at two different scales. One at the scale of the block itself, that they are arranged in compression only layout. And in addition, like to align the print paths as orthogonal to the force flow or expected force flow as possible. These two things mean that we can remove all reinforcement from the concrete print. Like we don't need fiber reinforcement or any kind of reinforcement in the printing. Neither as post-tension cables. So the only steel there is cleanly separated in the footings and the tension tie that ties all the arches together. So when it comes to each of the printing blocks, like part of the innovation, as I said, was to use so-called function representation, where each of these layers, like each of these 6 components, contribute a specific structural function, and it allows us to combine all of these in a fluid way and a very easy way. And more importantly, it together with that allows us to print the blocks to be more or less hollow, or more than 50 to 60% hollow, as you can see here. And in addition, it also gives us this striated language where these grooves are a consequence of the robot slowing down to make a turn, and all these inclined planes are also precisely calibrated to be able to align the material perpendicular to expected force flow. And so this also gives us the striated tectonic. And to achieve that also, there's like, some amount of resampling and innovation needed at the kind of print path generation. Like on the left here is what would happen if we just naively cut up a geometry. And on the right is like when we calibrate and coordinate every layer to every other layer, where the printing starts and where it stops, etc. So in conclusion, like the project is a kind of homage to a collaborative design mindset, like where like multiple stakeholders like engineering, construction, fabrication, design, all come together at the early stages and remain collaborative all the way to construction. So, and this is important, we feel, an important contribution to the discourse, that we are building bespoke tooling, not focusing on the existing tooling, because that one is focused on a kind of 20th century way to produce architecture, which relies on drawings and so on. And it is at all not aligned with digital design nor robotic fabrication. And more importantly, everything is white box and fully transparent, and it is collaborative precisely because it relies on a common language of geometry and code, and not only on numerical calculations. And so the disruptive outlook, as far as we are concerned from all of this, is that it's already being showcased by this floor slab, for example, which incorporates some of these principles of strength through geometry, integration of construction and design and fabrication already ahead of time. So this floor slab is being commercially realized by the Block Research Group now, and it incorporates like some of these principles or goals where we want to save material through these principles of strength through geometry. And likewise, we want to combine these ideas of funicular shape and appropriate stereotomy and the striated language and combined with 3D concrete printing, which allows for enormous placing material only where it's needed, to be able to realize some of these goals of circular and sustainable design, such as reduction of material, reuse of the printed blocks and recycling of them. In fact, this bridge has been fully dismantled and crushed, and the same material is being used as a source for the next set of batch of printing for the permanent bridge, which will be located in Lyon in France. Again, we are hoping to complete that by the end of October. So this is the disruptive outlook that we hope to enable through this prototypes bridge that we showcased in Venice in 2021. And I will leave you with this video, which summarizes some of the contributions. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sanjay, for presenting this wonderful project, and warmest congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
The third award-winning project is entitled Tortuga, an ultra-thin hollow glass bridge. This is designed by a team led by Professor Masoud Akbarzadeh. May I invite Masoud to make a short presentation.
First, thank you very much, Philippe, for the for the selection. Thank you and the entire team. It's first of all, it's a great honor to be among such fantastic projects. It's also a great honor for us to receive this award. I'm going to briefly introduce the entire concept behind the project and the objectives that form the, I would say, the initial investigations for this project. And then I'll hand it over to my second-year PhD student to present a little bit more details about the process and why this project is a proof of concept and why this method can be extended to other construction materials. So first of all, this project is a collaboration between multiple institutes. The main idea for the project started at the Polyhedral Structures Lab, and then we started a collaboration with Villanova University, City College, New York, and Technical University of Darmstadt. And the project is supported also by National Science Foundation of the United States. Next, please. All right. So thank you very much for the previous teams for putting that much emphasis on the minimization of the material, which is an important topic right now in the world of construction. I'm going to very briefly refer to the existing methods that nature is actually using for the billions of years. So what is really interesting about natural structures is that nature tries to create maximum diversity with minimum inventory of material. And this is something that has become at the core of our research methods and investigations for the past couple of years since 2017. Next, please. So we have developed multiple techniques and methods that allows us to design actually the force flow in three-dimensional space and distribute the construction materials using these force flows to create variety of different spatial structural forms. So in this case, we are obviously working with the methods of polyhedrographic statics that I had the honor to be one of the few people, one of the first people to extend this method to 3D at ETH Zurich under Professor Philip Bloch and William Baker. Let's move to the next. So we worked with different materials and tried different geometries. For instance, in this case, we have created concrete structures to show the efficiency and the minimization of the material. For instance, next in this sample, we showed how a 12 kilogram concrete structure can take around 24,000 of kilogram of load, right? Which basically proves the efficiency of the method and also the type of a structural system we work with. Please, next. Yes. So we tried to apply this method to various structural systems, structures that are, and work with a variety of different techniques of constructions. For instance, in this case, this is a node-based assembly. It's a compression body held together with the tension ties at the top and bottom and the self-weight of the top glass structure that keeps everything in equilibrium. But also we investigated a lot into the methods of assembly and the connections of these systems. In this particular case, the relative density of this structure is around is very close to the relative density of human bone to show how you can efficiently distribute the material in three-dimensional space. Next. One of the major projects we initiated in 2018 was this glass bridge. That the project that has been selected for award today is actually a proof of concept for this method of construction. So what was really at stake here was that we intended to use a highly brittle material like glass, like a float glass. This is not a security glass, it's like a window glass. And the main objective here was basically to eliminate any type of intermediate material like a steel, and just use pure glass to transfer the forces. But most importantly, we wanted to reduce significantly the self-weight of the structure. Next, please. Yeah, these are some of the images of the initial propositions we had. So why did we choose glass? Well, first of all, we wanted to take advantage of planar geometry of the efficient forms because planarity is one of the facts that makes many construction systems simplified. And we intended to obviously make an efficient structure with minimum use of material. We wanted to control the flow of forces in highly brittle materials, such float glass, and then propose a modular construction aimed for assembly and disassembly, and reinventing the structural detailing of the glass connection. And then if this works, and if we show that the system can effectively transfer the forces and we can use highly brittle material like glass, the same technique can be extended to other sheet-based material for the efficiency of the performance, and also to minimize the use of construction materials. Let's move to the next. So one of the main challenges that we had was that because we were rethinking through the method of construction, the way that these materials should work together, the way the glass panels, those really thin 1 centimeter glass panels, are going to put together to create a construction module, we did not have any understanding about the mechanical performance of our building units. And also there was not a very, I would say, well-known numerical workflow to validate the experimental results. And we did not have any research on fabrication, assembly, I would say, pre-made assembly techniques to move forward. So that, in fact, formed multiple stages or multiple thrusts of this research to begin with. And obviously, if you have all these things developed, we can actually move forward with the larger scale construction. Let's move forward. So from here, I'm going to actually give it to Yao Lu, who is my second-year PhD student, and he can walk you through multiple stages of this research that made it possible to arrive at the point that we are today.
Thank you, Masoud, for the introduction. I'm going to take it over, and then I'm going to start with providing some histories and detailed context of this research project. So in one of our research papers, we proposed this construction module called hollow glass unit. And then we would like to learn something about this specific construction methodology. So this construction module is made of 1 centimeter annealed glass, just the regular window glass. And then all the edges are cut using 5-axis water jet cutting techniques. And all the parts will be bonded together using 3M VHB tape. The assembly of the hollow glass unit could be fairly easy and precise thanks to the 3D printed PLA jigs. Then we physically tested the mechanical performance of this hollow glass unit, and it showed very impressive load-bearing compression capacity. As Masoud just mentioned, we've shown that it's totally possible to make a 10-meter pedestrian bridge using this construction unit by leveraging the compression capacity of the hollow glass units. But we still need to deal with the detailed design issues, the fabrication constraints, and also the assembly logic issues. And therefore, we introduced this smaller scale prototype called Tortuga. Tortuga is actually the Latin origin of the English word tortoise, and we hope this name could help us explain the design thoughts behind this project, and not only because of the visual similarity, but also due to the lightweight and structural efficiency of this biomechanical structure. So the design is achieved by polyhydrographic statics. We first deal with the single layer funicular form. We can, in this stage, we think about the topology, the geometry, also the rise of the bridge. And then we quickly move to the double layer bridge just by simply subdividing the force diagram into 2 layers. And after getting this base geometry, each of the polyhedral cells will be materialized into one hollow glass unit, which has a top deck plate, a bottom deck plate, and several side plates. We were trying to use the 1 centimeter annealed glass as much as possible, but for some of the side plates, we have to make them thicker in order to accommodate some connection mechanisms called male and female connection mechanism. So this mechanism is mainly to try to avoid the relative sliding between the neighboring hollow glass units. Here you can see some of the geometries of the side plates. All of them are unique, and we had to use cast glass and 5-axis water jet cutting to make those geometries. Although they're unique, but in fact, we can see all the female side plates are sharing the same master profile shape, and all the male side plates are sharing another. So therefore, we only need to cast 2 different type of geometries, and then we can use water jet cutting to fabricate the final shape. One other key element in this connection detail that I want to point out is this little piece of plastic. It's the interface material between the neighboring hollow glass units. It's to separate the glass-to-glass direct contact, because the direct contact between glass will lead to stress concentration and possibly cracking of the glass part. And here is the test unit that we made, and you can see all the side plates are made of cast glass and 5-axis water jet cut. There are several issues that we have found through this testing process. First of all, the whole casting process is very energy and time consuming. And more importantly, it doesn't perform well because some of the connections will open up under asymmetrical loading conditions. And therefore, we shifted to another improved connection detail called butterfly locking mechanism, which is also what we used for the final construction. It has a locking strip made of acrylic, and also the channels on the 2 hollow glass units that is trying to bring together. So the side plates with the channels will be very difficult to make using cast glass and water jet cutting. So we decided to use acrylic and 5-axis CNC milling instead of casting. And as always, we bound all the parts together using the 1 millimeter thick 3M VHB double-sided structural tape. Although we introduced some acrylic parts, as you can see in this middle layer, the primary loading elements of this whole structure is still the 2 continuous layers of the deck plates. Then we validated this improved connection mechanism using a simplified numerical model, and it showed clear improvements. The entire structure was also simulated under its self-weight, and the maximum deformation is below 0.3 millimeter. Here's an image that shows the detail of the locking mechanism, and this locking strip can be removed during the assembly just simply by a small metal hook. Here is another image that shows the locking mechanism with the interface material. So the compression coming from the deck plates will be passing through this interface, and therefore the material selection of this part will be very critical. It cannot be too hard because that's going to cause stress concentration and cracking. Also, it cannot be too soft, otherwise it's going to cause much deflection in the global geometry. And Serling is the type of material that we found that could satisfy all our needs. Before moving to the fabrication, we also implemented this parametric model where we can change the design parameters, and then the whole model will be updated instantly. It helps a lot with the design adjustments and also fabrication management. Here we have a video that records the entire fabrication and construction process. All the glass parts are cut using 5-axis water jet cutting. The water jet cutting can be fairly precise, and according to the fabricator, the error is below 0.1 millimeter. The construction of the hollow glass unit can be handled by just one person. And here we're actually showing the largest module in this whole bridge, and it weighs about 30 kilograms and can be easily handled by one person. The assembly of the whole bridge can also be done just by one person due to the lightweight of the whole construction system. After all the units are in place, we can start removing the formwork, and the structure will be standing on its own. Okay, as a conclusion, we made a lightweight multi-layer funicular structure using 1 centimeter thick annealed glass. And this proposed technology not only works for annealed glass, it can also be extended to almost any other sheet-based materials. The modular construction allows for easy disassembly and recycling of the structural materials. The lightweight construction allows minimized labor, formwork, and their costs. And last but not least, this project is still a work in progress, and we will have some physical testing at Villanova University in the facility of our collaborator, and we'll be happy to share any engineering data once the test is finished. And thank you for your attention. And I would also like to thank University of Pennsylvania Research Foundation and the National Science Foundation of the United States for supporting this project. And once again, thanks to the organizing committee for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Masood and Yao, for your very interesting presentation, and congratulations to your team for winning this award. I hand back to
Thank you.
Evelyn.
Yes, thank you so much, Professor Maitri, Sajay, Akim, and everyone associated with the team. Congratulations once again. Let me now move forward to the next award, the Matthias Rippmann Memorial Prize Award. Let me also invite Professor Neil Leach to hand over this award to the next candidate. Neil Leach is a British architect and theorist. He's professor at FIU, Tongji University, and European Graduate School. And he also taught at Harvard, AA, SIA, Columbia, USC, and Cornell. He is co-founder of DigitalFUTURES, an academician within the Academy of Europe. He has also He's also the recipient of 2 NASA research grants exploring 3D printing technologies for Moon and Mars. Neil Litch definitely doesn't need this introduction, but I'll still do the process. And Neil, the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Bhavleen. Before announcing the winner of this particular award, I just want to say that we have 2 memorial awards that we offer as part of Digital Futures. One of them is the Mark Cousins Memorial Award for Theory, which we gave out at the opening ceremony to Anna Maria Duran Callisto. The Matthias Friedman Award is, of course, a very special award, memorial award. Matthias has been part of Digital Futures and has contributed over the years, has been a kind of part of the community, and his sudden and very unexpected loss was really quite a tragic event within our history. Nonetheless, I want to, it gives us the opportunity to recognize new emerging talents, and the kind of connection, shall we say, with Mark Cousins from the Architectural Association gives a kind of segue to the recipient of this award, who is himself a graduate of the Architectural Association. The Matthias Friedman Memorial Award this year goes to Daniel Piker. Daniel Piker is a researcher and developer in the field of computational design, mainly focusing on form finding. After studying at the Architectural Association in London, he has worked for Arup's Advanced Geometry Unit, AGU, and as a part of the specialist modeling group at Foster & Partners. He is the author of the software Kangaroo, which enables a range of interactive form finding optimization and physical simulation within McNeil's Rhino 3D CAD software, and has been widely used across a range of fields. Daniel lives in Bristol, where he continues to develop Kangaroo and other design tools. This is an award for his overall contribution, which has been hugely significant over the years. So congratulations, Daniel, and welcome.
Thank you, Neil. I will share my screen. Okay. Yeah, thank you to the conference organizers and the prize committee for this honor. It's especially meaningful to me because it's in honor of Matthias, and he was someone whose work and who personally I respected and admired a great deal, and we shared a passion for form finding, and enjoyed conversations with him when I saw him at conferences and events. So it really is it's a great loss of him to our community. So thank you for thinking of me in connection with this. I think the events of the past few years have probably made all of us more aware of the fragility of human life, and to reassess a bit what really matters, and the importance of being kind to each other. So thank you. But I'm going to talk briefly today about my work mainly with Kangaroo, and this is something that goes back more than 12 years now when I first started it. And the original impetus for it was I was making a lot of physical models, and I wanted to bring that kind of interactivity to the digital environment. So in Rhino, that became a set of tools to allow people to do digital form finding. And form finding has a long history, obviously, from before computers, in the work of people like Gaudi and Eisler and Frei Otto. And the intention was to enable some of the same kind of experimental creation of structures in the computer. So it's originally, one of the very first applications of it was in vernacular and catenary structures. But over time, that the sort of remit of it expanded a bit to tensile structures, one of the classic applications of form finding. These are examples, early examples of use of it from the community. And this is, so as time went on, I continued to develop and try and improve these tools to try and sometimes getting as close as possible to real world physical simulation. And I was always drawn to the more playful applications of this. This is an example of combining tensile and inflatable structures. And what the importance of form finding really is that when we set out to design a shape in the computer, we can't, if it's something that involves large deformations like an inflatable, you can't just say, here is a cube and I want the balloon to be a cube. You have to design in interaction with the physical shaping processes. So it's really, Kangaroo is really geared towards enabling that kind of real-time or near real-time feedback as you shape the design. In some ways, similar to what would happen with physical models, but also extending it in digital ways that aren't always possible, aren't always convenient to do in the real world. So yeah, that's actually bending simulation was actually one of the very first things before Kangaroo was Kangaroo. It started as an exploration into understanding bending behavior, particularly drawing on the work of Chris Williams and from Bath and his work on dynamic relaxation. And this has led to the approach used in Kangaroo and applications to actively bent timber grid shells. In this case, a project with in Romania with some people from Bath University, and it just then from there it sort of started to diverge a bit more from pure from the kind of classical applications of form finding, extending to things like origami. And these are all different systems that can be approached through an energy minimization process. Did some work on this for a company called RoboFold, who at the time were using robots to fold sheet metal. And origami is an example of something that's very easy to do by hand, but to be able to repeat that motion on a large scale with the robot, we needed to be able to simulate it in the computer. And this interest in working with sheet materials has continued. This is some more recent work with developability. So this is based on some relatively new research on taking meshes and turning them into developable surfaces. So it was taking a mesh in Kangaroo and developing an energy for it, which adds creases and flattens areas in order to make it something which can be made out of flat sheet material. Also, as the stability and speed of the solver was increased, I found it was possible also to apply it to constraint modeling in the sense of mechanical models, because it can still be seen as an energy minimization system. And if you can converge fast enough, you can maintain the rigid parts and their connections to each other. This is an early demonstration of those improvements in the solver. And this is actually something which work is continuing on this now in McNeil. So we're actually, here what you see is in Grasshopper, which is the parametric plugin to Rhino, but we're now working on adding these types of constraint solving into Rhino itself. So it's usable for more drafting type applications. Also, in terms of fabrication, often it's important to simplify geometry to something which can be more easily manufactured. And one of the early examples of that I worked on was planarization, so taking meshes which have faces which are twisted and turning them into flat panels that can then be fabricated out of glass and steel, for example. And these, some of the earliest adopters of these tools have been students and people making pavilions, and there have been several nice examples of these kinds of things using Kangaroo. But it also then it grew and has actually been applied in larger scale architectural projects. This work by Thornton Tomasetti for this this stadium, which is now built. And then at some point in this journey, I joined Foster and Partners in the specialist modeling group. This was one of the first projects I worked on there, actually planarizing the panels just in one small part of this. So it wasn't that the whole thing involved a lot of form finding. There was just one area where we simplified the fabrication through this planarization process. Another way in which it's used is actually quite a subtle way, not always so obvious. There's a transition here. This project, the panels in the middle part of the station are actually identical and repeating, and then towards the end, they have to change their dimensions to meet that the angle of the boundary curve. And we wanted that to be as that transition to be seamless and invisible. And that's somewhere where relaxation comes in. So the triangles on the right side of the image are repeating, and by the time they reach the left, each one is different from the one next to it. And this was done through a process of setting these constraints and minimizing the an energy based on the angles, so that we could stay within the fabrication constraints for the ETFE and also manage a smooth transition. A more recent project from Foster's, this typical kind of application where we would use Kangaroo there is for this kind of panelization or making facades and roofs, in this case with, again, with planar panels and managing smooth transitions between sometimes challenging boundary conditions. And one of the things that I've most enjoyed about working in this is that it's been applied in a huge range of fields, far beyond what I ever expected, even people outside of architecture. This is recent preprint a paper from biology where they actually used Kangaroo for understanding some of the behavior of kidney growth. More examples of its use in distribution. So this same idea of taking challenging curved or complex boundary conditions and making something which seamlessly and smoothly interpolates between them. Often one theme I've returned to many times is ideas of circle packing, which is actually used in quite a broad sense. There are many different types of circle packing, one of which was quad-based circle packing with tangent circles. So like when I tend to try and follow the latest research, and whenever there's some geometric property which sounds like it can be interesting for fabrication, I try and develop ways to include that as a new energy within the system. More examples of distribution. This is a very different type of circle packing, in this case, a disordered one. This type of thing sometimes used for covering panels, getting perforation designs like you might use for speaker panels in a car, that kind of thing. And this is an example of where, so although it's physically based, you can abstract it and add constraints or physically based behaviors that you wouldn't necessarily encounter in the real world. So here there's physical collisions between those circles, but also maintaining given symmetry constraints. So you can say, I want to distribute these points with the symmetry of a cube or an icosahedron, and also have them non-overlapping. So this was actually an exercise in looking at golf ball dimple designs, which turn out to be surprisingly more complex than you might first imagine. They're not all just subdivided icosahedra. Yeah, this is an optimized version of an existing golf ball design, which has tetrahedral symmetry in this case. So one of the aims in the form finding that I'm doing is often it's about finding, in a sense, canonical or ideal forms where the inputs of the designer, and in this case, the discretization used. When we relax the mesh, sometimes if we have a bad mesh to start with, then we can get a very asymmetrical result. So one of the other large directions of research I've gone in is improving the mesh independence of these results. So trying to make the behavior not so determined by how you mesh it, but more just given the topology that you've started with and the boundary constraints, what is the actual energy minimizing solution in a way that doesn't depend on the mesh. And this is some work on that. But still, even with this, you can see when you have large deformations like on the right, you still get some very distorted triangles, which can cause problems. So that's why I grew very interested in this idea of remeshing, which is about changing connectivity of meshes in a way to improve the triangle quality based on these papers mainly. And that lets us take something like the mesh on the left and iteratively improve it to something like the one on the right, which has applications also for generating analysis models and other things. But in terms of Kangaroo, the interest in it was that this enables much larger deformations, so we can change the boundary conditions much more dramatically than we could if we kept the connectivity of the mesh fixed, which has allowed this sort of thing. And to in this example, so one of the things, sometimes the results are surprising, and I always enjoy when form finding can give you results completely different to what you're expecting. So given a helicoid mesh, it actually turns out not to be stable, and it wants to jump to one of two different solutions. Or in this case, Costa's minimal surface, actually, if you relax it as a soap film, it will collapse and disconnect. And then combining these themes of circle packing and remeshing, we can get circle packings which maintain their tangency and also adapt their connectivity at the same time. So this idea of finding canonical forms, I think topology is one of the clearest examples of this. Like for a given knot, then you can draw it in many different ways, but we can actually ask the computer to find what is, in some sense, that we define the best way of placing that topology as a shape, as a 3D shape. So here we've got the user draws something very roughly with the given topology, and in this case, it's finding an alternating crossing diagram for that knot, and then it relaxes to find an energy minimizing form. So it changes the role of the designer a bit in that instead of actually drawing the shapes and placing all the points and curves by hand, it's more, you have to change a bit so that you design by setting up the conditions you want to be optimized for and the things you want to stay fixed or constrained, and then let the computer find its way to a minimal energy, given whatever energies you've set, find its way to a minimal energy form. So taking more complex knots and we can always relax them to get to this minimal energy form. And then from this, I've also been doing a lot of generating surfaces on knots, and this is some work on solid angle surfaces where we can take a knot and generate a surface on any knot. In this case, using some implicit surfacing techniques, and that's really has opened up an exciting new world of forms that I've been exploring a lot recently. So just that's an overview of the kind of things that it's been going on with it over the last, let's say, 12 years now. And form finding, it can be used for a lot of different things. I think it surprised me over time how many different applications it has. Obviously working within physical constraints of things that deform a large amount, and very importantly, minimizing material use and satisfying systems of constraints, or transitions between given boundary conditions. And really at the heart of it, to me, the important part is it changes the relationship between the designer and the computer, and it becomes more of a collaboration where the computer you're setting up the conditions for the design rather than always shaping it so manually yourself. And yeah, I want to say thank you for this prize, and I look forward to seeing where the future of digital design from all of you in the computational design community, and seeing how that develops. And once again, my great respects to Matthias Rippmann. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and congratulations once again. This work was really, really good. I mean, the intensity of your work, it's really commendable. Neil, any words, or should I move forward?
No, I think we can go forward. Thank you, Daniel. That was a great presentation. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so to present the next awards, let me call upon Philippe Johan for announcing the coding award. Philippe Johan is professor and doctoral supervisor at College of Architecture and Urban Planning at Tongji University, and the visiting professor at MIT. Thomas Jefferson Professor at University of Virginia and Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. He is also the editor-in-chief of Architectural Intelligence, Associate Director of National Engineering Technology Research Center for Prefabrication Construction of Civil Engineering, Director of Digital and Architecture Branch, the Architecture Society, Shanghai, China, Council member of UIA Professional Practice Commission and International Association for Shell and Spatial Structure and 3D TRV. Philippe, the screen is yours, and please start with presenting the award. You're on mute. You're on mute, Philippe. Yeah.
Thank you, Reverend. So we directly go straight to the coding award, I think, which is extremely important to the society because not only the computational design, but also the digital fabrication all based on the codings. So the nomination is actually from the past winner award and also voting by the committee. And the award goes to Compass RRC, and which leading by the team from Philippe Fleischmann. And briefly introduce the Compass RRC, which is the extension of the Compass ecosystem that enables the bi-directional online communication between the computational design environment and the industrial robotic system. So let's welcome Philippe. Your screen to make it the introduction.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, Philip?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. Can you also see a black screen?
Yeah, we can see a black screen.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's a huge honor for me. It was a huge surprise for me itself because we had not so many connections over to Shanghai. So first, I would really like to say thank you, Digital Futures, for this award. It was great for us to receive this, and I hope I can make a good presentation. I was not sure what you're expecting from me. Therefore, I will explain you the story where we have done until now at the ETH Zurich. So I start my presentation. It will take the next 15 minutes, and I tell my story. It's important for us to support research, development, and industry with an easy-to-use tool for industrial robots that they can tackle simple and advanced challenges. How? We work as an interdisciplinary team together. Why? Because digital fabrication processes can be highly complex. Industrial robots are complex by themselves, even without a complex process. The story started in 2005 at ETH Zurich in the department. So Matthias Kohler and Fabio Gramazio used the first time an industrial robot in architecture. They were also the initiator of the Robotic Fabrication Laboratory and the initiator of the National Center of Competence in Research Digital Fabrication. Parallel to the start of industrial robots in architecture, the development of ROS, a main tool for developers for non-industrial robots, started. A tool with a similar message as Compass. Don't repeat yourself or others, share your work and collaborate. Then, 2009, Philipp Bloch started his chair at ETH Zurich, director of the NCCR Digital Fabrication. His chair is also the home base of the well-known Compass. We come later to a little explanation of Compass for those who are not aware of it. 5 years later, Michael Lüdermann returned to the ETH Zurich. He acts now as the lead of the Robotic Fabrication Lab. He started his digital fabrication career as a carpenter and took later training in computer science. He is a mentor and on the same time a supporter for all lab users. Soon after his return, the program of the National Center of Competence in Research Digital Fabrication started. The focus of this research project is to tackle 3 main challenges: on-site digital fabrication, bespoke digital prefabrication, and cross topics. In 2016, I joined the NCCR DFAB team as a robotics technician. Never studied on a university, in a totally new environment for me, but with a background of 8 years automation basics, 3 years PLC programming, and 7 years industrial robotics implementation in the industry. Short afterwards, Gonzalo became also part of the DFAB family. Gonzalo is a fully stack developer from backend to front-end coding in C#, Java, and Python, up to web-based applications with JavaScript. Shortly after Gonzalo's start, Tom van Mele, the co-director of Block Research Group and the lead developer of Compass, released Compass to the scientific community. Thanks to Tom for this great decision. Compass is an open source project for AEC, Python-based, focus on interdisciplinarity, CAD independent, and the message of Compass is Don't repeat yourself or others. Share your work and collaborate with others. In 2018, we all worked on a different tasks to tackle the 3 challenges of the research focus of digital fabrication. On-site prefabrication and cross topics to support the realization of the DFAB house. During this phase, we discovered many problems in the production itself. Later, we wanted to better understand the problem and, if possible, to find solutions for the further research. My focus went to one challenge: the faltering robot motion in automatic mode. To investigate it, I needed motion. Therefore, I selected a path with 50 waypoints in a format of joint angles with the maximum speed and with a smooth blend. We had to find out the difference between us and the industry. Therefore, we did the following tests. First, our online communication at this time with sending the values out of Python code. And second, the potential of an industrial robot, the same path implemented in the native robot code language. The result of this test was clear. We needed a better communication for the future if we want to use the full potential of industrial robots in our research. Together as a team, Mike, Gonzalo, and we started to work on a solution for this challenge. I'm really proud to work and learn with those two together. Everyone from us comes with more than 20 years experience in his domain. Our goal was to use the full potential of the RFL robot. The custom gantry from Gödel with 12 axes and 4 ABB robots, ERB 4600, 2.55 with 40 kilo payload. And on the same time, another goal was to better support the growing community in digital construction. Here you see a picture from the RobArc 2018. We started to develop Compass RRC. We tried to develop on 3 pillars: support for the interdisciplinary over Compass, use the flexibility and the power of the ROS, and keep at the same time the experience from industrial robots. Compass RRC comes with following features: online communication. Our Compass RRC is an online communication. It is not real time, but you could become immediately feedback back to your process code. We can also support multi-location. This means your production code can be in a different location and stream this data to your fabrication location. Multi-controller is managing an unlimited number of controllers through a single Python script. Multi-move allows us to synchronize motions up to 4 robots on 1 controller. And the multitasking feature allows us to execute parallel tasks on the robot controller next to the robot motion. To stream the information from the production code to the robot, we have 4 communication methods. We can send and wait. It means it's a blocking instruction. We can send and wait in the future, means we send the code and catch the answer later. And we have the opposite of send. We can send and subscribe, meaning the robot streams data back to the Python code. Anna Anton was one of our first alpha testers of Compass RRC with her 3D concrete printing projects. There we could very good develop the data streaming. Another very important function from Compass RRC is the process feedback. With the process feedback, we can bring real process data back to the virtual environment, like CADs, for updating their parameters for the next production steps. Compass RRC instructions. We have developed easy to use instructions for motion, for signals, for tool management and work object management, for utilities, and for custom instruction. The custom instruction is very interesting because with a custom instruction, a professional ABB rapid programmer can support your project with his advanced experience, and with the custom instruction, we can use all currently developed ABB functions on the robot controller together with parametric data from an external source. The RRC part is licensed by DTH Zurich, but it is free for virtual systems, for research and development projects. We decided to select a license model because of every robotic system is in really complicated. And if we would make just everything public, we would have many frustrated users. So with this license model, we get the freedom to support every real system setup. This means if you are interested, you can contact me and I will help you to set up your real system that you can use Compass RRC with the full potential. Currently, we support all ABB robots with the RobotWare 5, RobotWare 6, and RobotWare 7. So from controller generation S4 C+, over ERC5, up to OmniCore. You can control external positioner, tracks, collaborative robots, the whole ABB portfolio. A simple picture hides an advanced ecosystem for digital fabrication. But for an easy start, we have prepared something for you. Compass RRC Start is a step-by-step guide for beginners and a cheating library for advanced users. You can find templates for Compass RRC codes, easy to start ROS environments, and ready to use virtual robot cells. Now, I will show what Compass RRC can do with a synchronized movement in automatic mode. And now I will invite you to try Composor RC, that you can realize your advanced digital fabrication projects with an easy-to-use tool for industrial robots. Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats, Philip. So congrats to the team, and also including Philip Block and Tom. So say hi to them. Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philippe, and congratulations to the award winner. For the next award, let me call upon Professor Matthias Del Campo, who's a registered architect, designer, educator. He is an associate professor at Taubman College of Architecture and Urban Planning, University of Michigan, and director of AR2IL, the Architecture and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory at University of Michigan. He conducts research on advanced design methods in architecture, primarily through the application of artificial intelligence techniques in collaboration with computer science department and Michigan Robotics, of which he is also an affiliated faculty member. Matthias Del Campo is the co-founder of architecture practice SPAN. Their award-winning architectural designs are informed by advanced geometry, computational methodology, and philosophical inquiry. Matthias, the screen is all yours for the announcements.
Thank you, Babylin, very much for this kind introduction. It's an honor and a pleasure to present the Young Awards of Digital Futures this year. I think this is a crucial award to give away, and I congratulate all the awardees. I think the award is an encouragement for further exploration of your work, but also encouragement for everybody else in the young community to participate and push, and one day maybe also be a recipient of this award. Thank you very much to Philip Yuan and the team of Digital Futures for the invitation to present the awards today. I congratulate, by the way, the Digital Futures community and the team for this wonderful, wonderful weeks, but also year of work that you have put together to push this community forward. So thank you very much for that. But with no further ado, I would like to welcome Vishu Bhushan as the first recipient of the Young Award. It seems the force is strong in the Bhushan family. So the stage is all yours, Vishu.
Thank you. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, we can see.
No, it's a full screen video playing. There you go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. First of all, many thanks to Digital Futures and the prize committee to giving this honor. It's conferring this award. It's an honor to receive it, and happy to present the work I've been doing with the team for the last few years. Also, thank you, Matthias, for the announcing the winner today. I titled my talk Research Opportunities Embedded in Architectural Practice, and what computational geometry, how it's powering this set of research paradigms. I'm affiliated with two institutes, one at the Computation and Design Group at Zaha Hadid Architects, and at the Architectural Computation Program at the University College of London. At both these institutes, I kind of carry out research in computation and design, and at the same time also disseminate knowledge through our teaching, through workshops, and through attending conferences. For the rest of the presentation, I'll be kind of focusing mostly on the work and research done at Zaha Hadid Architects. First of all, I would like to thank Patrick Schumacher, Shajay Bhushan, and Niels Fischer, who started the Computation and Design Group at Zaha Hadid Architects in 2007, but also being very supportive to encourage new joinees and trying to push research within a practice of Zaha. As a group, we have grown over the last few years. You can also see the scale of projects also going up. When we started, we were kind of doing project independent research and trying to build a network of collaborators. And this research, as it matured, is finding applications in large scale projects such as metro stations, stadiums, master plans, etc. And we are also kind of delivering of projects which are now coming in, which is the new buzzword, which is metaverse and machine learning. Our research kind of sits at in between at the intersection of what is valuable to architects and designers and what computation can do, or what more recently this is kind of replaced with design technologies. As Daniel was kind of also showing previously, we kind of draw a lot of our precedents from industries such as mathematics, computer graphics, and the gaming industry, whilst also looking inward at the AEC industry, looking at the advances in structural form findings, like groups like Block Research Group and Masood, who are also a part of the call here, and looking at digital fabrication technologies, and more so recently trying to embed sustainability and statistical or machine learning aspects into it. I kind of lead the computational geometry research within the group, and more specifically looking at architectural projects through architectural geometry. It is to kind of make visible in shape and stylistically heightening of some performance criteria such as fabrication, structure, environmental performances, etc. As Patrick would call it, this is called tectonism, subsidiary style within parametricism. It shares a language of geometry. It becomes a source of truth as well as interface between the different stakeholders in an architectural project. The research seeks to have historic continuum and stand on top of giants. For this, we look at again, looking at mathematicians such as Lionel March, or also looking at Gaudi and other seminal figures, even like Frei Otto, etc. The goal of the computational geometry is to augment designer intelligence, trying to develop tools which will aid designers to design better, and trying to inform it at a very early stage of design rather than rationalizing them at a later stage. To go over these projects and avenues in terms of computational geometry, I'll look at these 5 avenues, looking at academia, technology demonstrators, which is done through interdisciplinary collaborations, how it's getting applied into architectural projects in the more recent past, and looking at how it is also computational geometry affects metaverse and cyber physical spaces, and also all of the framework, which is kind of powering all of the ones above. Like in our academic setups, we kind of have the lot things to do, like learning by doing. We kind of follow this paradigm, which is kind of following in the footsteps of Joseph Albers from Bauhaus. And over the years, through Zaha Hadid Architects, and we have done quite a lot of workshops, like now currently up to 45, 50 plus now, of which 20 plus workshops have been in design to fabrication. So these 10-day workshops is kind of looking at application of our computational tools, but also application in the fabrication, how the design tools are aligned with the fabrication tools. So these are kind of different workshops we have done over the years at visiting schools, at conferences at Acadia, at Cadria, etc., and trying to build something to hone and align our design and digital tools. Even at the Digital Futures, we have been long-standing collaborators since 2017, when we started off with a workshop with the Block Research Group. But subsequently, in the next years, we are kind of running our own workshops, looking at various aspects. Some of them are looking at digital fabrication, some looking more at the technology and the digital side. Even this year, we were looking at the architecture for the metaverse. Of which I'll present once more the one we did last year, which is looking at spatial curved laminated timber structures. which was a collaboration. It was an online workshop in collaboration with the Computation and Design Group and the University of Calgary in Calgary. The research was looking at 3D graphic statics, kind of research tools, research of Masood, trying to use it in developing our own tool sets for it, exploring polyhedral graphic statics, and then how it's linked to kind of generating these kind of developable strips. And by developable strips, that would entail that these kind of unroll to flat sheets. And as you can see, because through graphic statics, we are aware of what is the force acting in each part of the structure. So the number of laminates was varied as per the force acting on it. So you can see at the bottom, it's where the forces are high, it is the thickest, and where it is the forces are less, it becomes thin. The aspect of also kind of procedurally generating geometry through these volumes or polyhedra is an inherent property for these geometries to be developable. That means all of these sheets can unroll into flat sheets, and they can be cut with an inexpensive 2D laser cutter, which was done at the University of Calgary. And to register the curvature back in the physical, an actuator tool was developed at the university in Calgary by Alicia and her team, where they kind of registered each of the nodes and the curves for all the 3D geometries. This was assembled over 4 to 6 hours at the University of Calgary, and you can see the video playing it through. First, initially, the top part was done, and then subsequently, the remainder strips, which were kind of split into 24 nodes, were assembled and then flipped in the space. So it was done over the period of the workshop, so it was done in like a week's time. The second domain I would like to look into is like the current buzzword everyone's interested in the design industry, which is looking at metaverse and cyber physical spaces. Why, in terms of the computational side, why we are interested in it is like it's a home of computation. It allows for procedural content generation, and it's a natural for people interested in computational design to kind of intersect with the paradigm of metaverse. It also allows for parametric tectonic variations, so the buildings can change over time, and this is very inherently possible when you're integrated with computational tools. The more important aspect why we kind of looking into metaverses is the user content generation and customization, kind of involving user to make decisions and also to generate content. And the fourth one is that because it has a high fidelity images, and that's one of the reasons why we are also looking into game engines which are kind of aligned with the metaverse pipeline. Learning from quite a few commercial projects such as Liberland, which is kind of like a simulation of the kind of preparing for the physical realization, but kind of was simulating in the digital world. This was creating a master plan. The design sense is kind of very different to what are the current precedents out there, like Decentraland, you can see on the right. But we are trying to bring in our design languages and trying to give a hierarchy of spaces, which is inherently in any master plan, if we did it in the physical world as well. And trying to have these markers which becomes landmarks from which the city can grow. But one important factor, as I mentioned, was the user-generated content. But we believe that the user-generated content needs to be supported with what is known as professionally curated content. So the architects and the designers need to create these spatial modules, which then the user can combine to create their own spatial combinations. And these are one of the instances for a work incubator. And the same logic was what we tested in the workshop we just concluded like yesterday. These are some of the early images of the conceptual images of how the workspace incubator would look. And one of the first instances of this is working with Metaverse, and now this is already a platform which is available for holding meetings and kind of giving a tour of the master plan. The second project in the domain is one we completed very recently at Seoul. It's a collaboration with Rafik Anadol Studio, looking at machine learning, and the project is called Architecting the Metaverse. It was powered by OpenAI DALI 2 and NVIDIA StyleGAN. What we were looking here was to use DALI 2 to create architectural spaces. As we all know, it's already trying to give like quite a lot of coherent architectural spaces. But what we were trying to look at was kind of how we can make this into an inspiration for design, and trying to use these outputs from the design and data in converting into 3D spaces, which can be then detailed out by the designer. This is kind of a teaser, which we kind of did in collaboration with the Rafik Anadol Studio, looking at data and style GANs in the initial part of the research, but then subsequently moving on as DALI 2 was released. We kind of looked into DALI 2 and trying to convert the images coming from DALI 2 into these kind of 3D spaces, which can be into these kind of 3D spaces, and also developing the tectonics associated with it. These are some. This exhibition is currently on, so if anyone listening from Seoul, please go and visit the space. Yeah, other commercial projects we are currently in that domain looks into NFTism, and also an exciting period for designers in the sense that we're able to design for gameplay and also for PUBG, in this case looking at the first-person shooting game, and how computational geometry can actually enable us to navigate the space better. These kind of things were integrated into the design pipeline. Moving on to the technology demonstrator part, this is like 3 to 6 months period where we kind of collaborate with a technology partner and an industry partner. And Striatus is one of the projects we kind of recently completed not recently, like last year, and we are happy to know that it won one of the project awards. I'll not go in detail as Shajai already gave a in-depth view of the project, but I will highlight the computational aspect, which was kind of very important to the project, which is kind of delivering this integrated design to production pipeline. And all of this streamlining was happening through an integrated file format, which we kind of developed for the project, with all the stakeholders using the same file format, which you see on the right side, kind of showcasing the attributes which are getting captured at each stage of the project. In this case, looking at sign distance fields and their associated functions, and then looking at the fabrication aspects and the G code. Everything is embedded in the same file format so that it is much more streamlined. In the next step, we are also trying to capture the fabric assembly aspects of this into the same file format. In a similar sense, looking at Thales, which is at another collaborative project with AI Build and Odico Formworks. Similar generative tools, trying to use generative algorithms to position material where it's only required. So you can see the density of the line in this case would change based on the structural forces. You can see the boundary where the forces are high, the density of the curves would be higher, and where the forces are low, the density of the curve is much less. So this one is using an algorithm called differential growth and also curve fitting algorithm into a given 2D space. Because it was going to be 3D printed, we kind of because it was going to be 3D printed, that's why we were looking at differential growth of a line. And this was done on a formwork which was wire cut and printed on with this kind of spinning of the formwork. There were 3 spins or 6 spins by AI built. It was assembled, done in 3 parts, and then assembled on site for the Milan Design Week in 2017. But subsequently, it has been dismantled and assembled multiple times in all of the ZHA Code exhibitions. Similar techniques and like developability and topology optimizations have been explored in wide ranges of other demonstrators, in this case with one-to-one and UAP, with Block Research Group and Architectural Extrapolated, looking at fabric formwork and concreting, high resolution 3D printing with Stratasys, and looking at stone stereothermy and carbon fiber with Generali and AKT2 and New Fundamentals Research Group. Overall, as this technology for the design side and the fabrication side has been maturing, we have been able to see this applied into a wide range of projects within the office, of which I will focus on the stadium project, which is almost nearing completion and set to open in Xi'an in October. Looking at all the form finding things we learned from early pavilions is now kind of making into large span roofs at the stadium, looking at facade systems and tectonics of paneling. Also the design methods for early stage design to iterate through a lot of different metrics and design iterations were also kind of applied. And the knowledge of building these prototypes have helped us to negotiate better with the structural engineer through our own form finding tools. We are looking at trying to reduce the number of elements and also reduce the thickness of the cable net. And as with any other geometry group, we also need to do these kind of geometry method statements, which kind of helps us communicate better with the fabricator, that they just take our methods and they're able to recreate the geometry at their end. And this has been done in also the gallery scales and at the stakeholder participations for the Bayabu residents in Rotan, metro stations, bridges and large span structures, arenas, etc. And the last part of the presentation is all the computational tool, which is actually powering all of the things I showed above. As Shajai was also mentioning in his presentation, our own framework is called ZSpace. It's spatial technology stack, which is software agnostic and tries to speak to all the softwares we as designers would use. Within the team, most of us code. We understand the first principles, like in this case, you can look at the thrust network analysis or the polyhedral framework from Masood's group and try to integrate it into our design pipeline by writing our own. And it is kind of divided into 2 parts. One at the early stage conceptual stage, which is kind of content creation stage, and the later stage where we want to deliver the content. And the framework is powering all of these different stages of a project and all of the different projects as well within the office. Our core framework kind of, as I was mentioning, kind of supports to all the softwares which are available in the office, predominantly Maya and Rhino, but also speaks to Python and BIM on the other side. Apart from powering a lot of the technologies we just saw, it is also looking, as I mentioned, looking at recently into sustainability and looking at kind of incorporating these kind of solar analysis into an early stage design. So you can see here using GPU computing at the real time as the designer is kind of modifying the low polygon geometry in Maya, they're able to get real-time feedback of the analysis. So you can see it's like about 40, this is just an example, if the mesh had about 10,000 faces, it's doing about 45 million calculations real time. And that is becoming really powerful. And this tool is getting further developed to include all the other aspects about sustainability. Overall, I would say it's kind of a very exciting moment for computational geometry in the AEC industry, as we can see wide ranges and domains of applications, ranging from in academic design to production workshops, to technology demonstrators, to large-scale architectural projects, metaverse and machine learning. And if you're not interested on the design side, but you can contribute heavily on the computational framework side as well. Many thanks for the award again, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Vishu, for the amazing lecture, and it's mind-boggling the amount of work you've done in the recent years. Well-deserved award, and with this I would like to continue with our next awardee, Yamasan Tahuni, who is already sharing her screen. And yes, please, the screen is all yours, Yamasan.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna share my screen. So thank you again to the Digital Futures community for this award. It's really a great honor, and I'm very grateful to be here and to be able to present my work. And before I begin, I also want to acknowledge the Institute for Computational Design and Construction, ICD, where I'm doing the research that I'm going to present as a research associate and a PhD student. And I specifically want to acknowledge my colleagues, Tiffany Cheng, and the research group leader, Dylan Wood, at the Material Programming Research Group within ICD, and Professor Achim Menges. So my research is about designing and building structures that change their shape in response to environmental stimuli. This shape change does not rely on electromechanical sensors or actuators or microcontrollers. Instead, it relies solely on the material properties and material intelligence itself. So in my work, I'm very inspired by the nature, specifically by hygroscopic plant structures, and one of the best examples of the pine cones. As most of you might know, when the pine cones are on the tree, the scales are closed to protect the seeds. And as exactly the right time of the year comes, these cones get released, and as they dry out, they open the scales to release the seeds in the environment. And what is really interesting is that if you take a cone and put it again in a glass of water, you see that the scales close again. And if you set it aside and let it dry, the scales would open again. And this opening and closing motion can repeat for over tens of thousands of cycles. And this all happens just through the material without consuming any metabolic energy of the plant. So this is an inspiration for creating a new generation of structures whose shape is no longer static and frozen property in time, but instead their shape can change at any moment of time in response and in adaptation to their environment. And this shape change is both informed and also inspired by, informed and empowered by the material itself and by the surrounding environments. So being able to create this kind of structures brings up a lot of opportunities and applications in architecture and built environment. One example is in developing adaptive building systems, for example, in weather adaptive architectural building facades that respond to the weather conditions. And of course, with the increasing concerns for energy efficiency of the built environment, these type of approaches are very promising. Another area of application of these self-shaping systems are their application in developing self-assembling manufacturing processes. So here the idea is that instead of relying on robots, on the fabrication machines to shape the material, we can embed the logic of self-shaping into the material and material structuring itself. So then how can we achieve this? We can look at nature, for example, the pine cone again. And the way that the pine cone can achieve the shape changing capability is through taking advantage of both inherent material properties and the material structuring in different hierarchical length scales. So on the material on a micro scale level, the hygroscopic microfibrils are extremely hygroscopic, meaning that they can swell when they absorb water or moisture from the air. And then through specific arrangement of these cellulosic microfibrils within the plant structures, the swelling can be translated into shape change in form of bending. So the overarching hypothesis of my work is that if we can do the same, if we can somehow co-design the material itself and the material structuring in different length scales, we will be able to create the same functional, self-shaping, shape-changing structures. By material, we need to build materials with this inherent stimuli responsive property, for example, hygroscopic property. At the same time, materials should be able to be processed with digital and computational fabrication processes that then we can use to define the mesostructures of our larger structures. And the mesostructuring is what we can actually use to embed and encode the logic of shape change. And then lastly, we talk about the mechanisms, which are these larger systems that can create functions for us. And these last two can be precisely designed and fabricated using computational fabrication processes. So specifically in the research I'm going to present in my doctoral research, I use 4D printing, which is 3D printing using stimuli responsive materials. And then while the hardware that I use, the 3D printing machines, are pretty standardized, I use computational design workflows to develop this fabrication process. They typically start with defining material structuring. They usually have a simulation process that enhances this, like designing shape-changing structures, and it leads to toolpath generation and then automatic generation of G-code, which can then be used on the normal desktop printers to create these 4D printed structures. So in the rest of this presentation, I'm gonna show you 3 studies, which each of them focus on one of these aspects that I just introduced. So the first study is on materials. This was a collaborative project that we did with the help of material scientists from the Institute of Plastic Technology at the Stuttgart University. And our aim was to develop 3D printable filaments that are highly hygroscopic and that can help us create highly responsive humidity responsive structures. So to create these kind of materials, we looked at the basic elements. We looked at pure cellulose powder as the hygroscopic agent, and then we mixed it with a matrix of bio-based polymers. And since we could pick the percentages of each of the cellulose and the polymers, and we could also use different polymers, we could really define the properties of the materials that we were building and we were creating. Properties such as hygroscopicity, such as stiffness and flexibility. And then this led to creation of a palette of different filaments, each with different properties that we then tested them thoroughly. And then at the end, it let us create structures, as you see one example of it on the screen, which were highly responsive to the humidity in the air. So with like slight changes in the humidity, that kind of corresponds to the humidity changes during day and night cycles, these structures could fully open and close. And further on, we also tested these structures for kind of long-term performance to see if they can perform the cyclic motion over many cycles, such as a pine cone can do. The next study is focused on the mesostructure. Here we were really looking at how we can fully program the shape change, not only spatially, but also temporally. So here with this project, we were collaborating with the biologists and the material scientists. And the biologist brought us this great inspiration of a plant. This is called the silver thistle, a plant that you can find in the Alps. And when it rains, it closes these like little silvery thistles to protect the pollen. But what is super interesting is that not all of these flaps close at the same time, but they're closing sequentially, some of them first and some of them later. So then this was kind of a challenge in our mind, that how can we create the same thing in 4D printing? So then we looked very deeply at the parameters that we have in 3D printing, 4D printing, parameters such as layer thickness, such as the filling ratio, the porosity, and etc. And then we did a wide range of tests on the samples that we produced to see what is exact effect of each parameters on both the bending curvature and the time scale of motion. And then through these experiments, we came up with some conclusions that what is the exact effect of each of these parameters and which can be used to create here such demonstrate piece that shows in an aperture that each, sorry, the video is a bit twitchy, that each of these plaques are bending in a different time scale, some of them much faster and some of them much, much slower following in later sequences. And here you see a geometrically similar structure, but here the flaps are programmed differently so that 3 of them are open faster in the first layer, and then 3 of them are following later with some delay. And the last study I want to share is a study on the mechanism. Specifically here, we looked at the self-shaping curved folding mechanism. So curved folding or curved crease origami is a specific type of origami that instead of folding a sheet on a straight line, it folds a sheet on a curved lines. And this results in very beautiful and performative 3-dimensional geometries. But the problem is that actually these geometries, these structures are really hard to fold by machines, robots, and even by hands. So here our idea was to use shape-changing material systems to create self-shaping origami structures. These structures use the same bending mechanism principle as the previous elements I showed you. But through specific arrangement of the bilayers and through using flexible materials on the hinges, we could create this 3-layer structure that folds upon changes in the moisture content. And of course, since we're dealing with 4D printing, we can really precisely program, for example, the folding angle on each of the fold lines through specifying the 3D printing parameters, for example, the toolpath spacing. And then what was really interesting for us as a kinetic system, just using this type of mechanism, the curve folding mechanism, allow us to create a huge motion amplification effect. For example, here you see 2 structures, one with and one without the folds. You see that the structure with the folds can achieve much larger opening. And now with the system, we are not really just confined to simple modules, but we can actually create complex origami tessellations, such as what you see here on the page. Again, the self-folding is completely on the material. All we need to do with the material that I was using for these prototypes were to put it in a tray of water for half an hour and then let it dry in the room temperature. And as it dries, it self-folds into its shape. And just I wanted to pause for a second. I think that the structure with that many folds that you just saw, how difficult it is to fold with the hand or with the machine. But through this approach, all of the folding attempts and effort is just on the material structure in itself. And then of course, using the computational fabrication workflow, we can really like implement it on a wide range of geometries and create all types of self-folding curve folded structures. In terms of the current and the future work, at the moment with our colleagues at the Material Programming Group at ICD, we are working on transferring this, this technique into architecture and building construction, and hopefully show it in a building demonstrator project that will be finished this fall 2020, where the smart shape-changing elements are used to provide adaptive shading in response to weathering conditions. So I tried to show in this presentation how this co-design method of materials, mesostructures, and motion mechanism can allow us to create multifunctional structures that adapt in response to their environment. And hopefully this research will be a step to create a future built environment that is more performative, adaptive, and in tune with the environment, and being empowered by, and at the same time, empowering the earth. Thank you very much again to the Digital Futures for this award. It was a great honor.
Dear Yama-san, Tahuni, thank you very much for the amazing, inspiring presentation. It's really shape-changing materials on steroids. I mean, this is really fantastic work. Congratulations again for the well-deserved award. And last but absolutely not least, I would like to invite Hua Chai to present his work. He's a postdoctoral researcher at the College of Architecture and Urban Planning of Tongji University, and his research focuses on the computational design and robotic fabrication of timber structures with a special attention on advanced robotic production technologies for complex timber building systems. He received his PhD from Tongji University recently in 2022. He visited the Institute for Computational Design and Construction, the ICT in Stuttgart for 1 year as a guest researcher in 2020. And his research has been widely published in journals and international conferences, including Automation in Construction, Arcadia Conference, RoboArch, and Fabricate. He's also a Young Cadre Award recipient in 2015. And he has been involved in leading several international workshops, including Digital Futures from 2014 to 2022, and one workshop at the Arcadia Conference 2020. With no further ado, my sincere congratulations to you also, Hua Chai, for the award, and I'll pass on to you.
Okay, it's really a great honor to be rewarded this Digital Future Young, and a big thanks to the Digital Future organizing committee. And actually, I just got my PhD under the direction of Professor Yuan and Professor Kim Mangus. And today I will show my research about the platform-based robotic timber construction. Actually, my research is progressing together with Digital Future activity since my first participation in 2014, when I joined the team of Professor Yuan as a master's student, and I continued to research on advanced robotic fabrication technology for complex timber construction for my doctoral research. And also visited SCD Stuttgart at the year of 2020, and as a joint PhD student, and a series of workshops, exhibition, and the practice have been carried out in collaboration with SCD Stuttgart and the WU Architecture. And for my doctoral research, I have been involved in a series of projects exploring diverse possibility of robotic timber construction, like in 2014, reinterpretation of the traditional Chinese timber architecture was constructed with the help of digital fabrication technology. And then the workshop in 2016 try to explore the robotic fabrication of a complex glue-lamp structure.
Sorry to interrupt. We cannot see your screen. Are you sharing something with us?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we cannot see your screen. No, we cannot see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yes, we can see. We can see. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. So in the Digital Future 2014, built this timber structure that reinterprets the traditional Chinese timber architecture, and the workshop, the Digital Future workshop in 2016, tried to explore the robotic fabrication of this complex glue-lamp structure. And 1 year after, a string grid shell structure is developed, and we also tested the mass customization ability of robotic fabrication in 2018 through the design and construction of this timber tower structure. So after these various explorations, my research attempt to think about how to combine the robotic fabrication technology in the academia field with the wood construction industry, which nowadays partially stress the advantage of this automated prefabrication process. And actually, I noticed a new trend is that the robotic the robotic construction platform, which is developed to migrate the innovation in the academia field into the industry by integrating the cutting-edge achievements in robotic fabrication and try to redefine the construction process. So in this context, our team here in Tongji University tried attempt to rethink the potential of timber construction with two types of robot platform for both on-site and off-site construction. One is a prefabrication platform, and it's a large-scale fixed gantry system designed for mass customization. And another is a mobile robot platform, which could move freely on-site and conduct automatic assemble tasks. And at the same time, we are also interested in exploring the interaction between the robotic fabrication platform and the building system by developing a lot different kind of new solutions for timber construction. And first, I will introduce the robotic prefabrication platform, which is initially developed by the team of Professor Yuan and in collaboration with Shanghai Fab Union since 2015. And this is a 3-axis gantry system equipped with 2 KUKA robots, and it provides sufficient capacity for large-scale fabrication. For my research, I try to develop the set of robotic fabrication effectors for timber fabrication and integrate them as a tool library. And also, I try to integrate a set of infrared camera system, which is equipped to give the platform the ability to see, and which is used for high positioning of the robot and also the materials. So with such a robot platform, we try to take advantage of it to deal with different challenges of complex glue-lamp structure. So this project called Nomadic Wood is an installation developed in 2019 for an exhibition in Shenzhen. And this installation is designed into 9 free curved wood beams intertwined with each other, and all the elements are double curved with torsion. And as we all know, the straight and the single curved glue line could be produced with current technology in the industry, and there is still no efficient way to produce this kind of double curved glue line component. So we employed the robotic bandsaw cutting technology, which could cut root surface with high efficiency and accuracy, and which also have been proved to be a feasible solution for double curved glue line production in previous research. So in this project, we divided each long beam into 8 segments, and each of the double curved segment is expected to be cut out of a single curved beam with a minimum volume that could cover the target segment. And since each segment is a different double curved one, so the production of the segments is a major challenge in this project. We try to make full use of the dual robot system, and the robot could perform all tasks in one workflow with the orderly organization of the bandsaw cutting and the spindle milling. And the two robots are responsible for respectively for cutting and joint milling, and with one robot equipped with a spindle and another operated the bandsaw effector. And also we are interested in the traditional craft like the timber joint. And also in this project, we are inspired by the traditional joint called a scarf joint, which is a common way to join the two wood beams end to end. And it's employed here to reconnect the short members into a continuous glue line on site. And this project is our attempt to demonstrate the ability offered by the robot platform handling this mass customization of a complex structure through this multi-process integration. And the second part of my presentation will be focused on the robot platform that address the problem that there's well, the timber construction industry address the prefabrication. There's no on-site fabrication system for timber structure that could be comparable and competitive with the flexibility of on-site casted concrete structure. And so in this case, a mobile platform is developed to be flexibly deployed for various timber construction tasks on site. And the rich envelope of this platform is designed to be the typical floor and the typical height of a floor and the ceiling. And the gripper with the automated nail gun is mounted on the robot to conduct assemble tasks. And also a gluing station is to apply the glue during the assemble. So with this setup, the timber structure could be robotically assembled on-site from discrete timber elements through a continuous repetition of first localize itself on-site and then gripping beams and applying glue, placing the elements and finally nailing it in place. So based on this kind of nail glue hybrid connection, which can be regarded as an extension of the common concept of glue line structure, glue line component. So we first designed and conceptualized this kind of building system called the glue line beam networks, which is assembled by the robot on site to reinforce the timber slab underneath. At the heart of this building system is the development of a material efficient network, which is compatible with the capacity of the robotic fabrication platform. and the computational design of the beam network takes the result of a topology optimization, and then the axes are extracted, and the agent-based modeling system is used here to generate the different stakes and to make sure that all the elements is compatible with robotic fabrication constraints. So also we developed a case study pavilion last year as a demonstrator to test the proposed beam network system. And this pavilion was also in collaboration with Fabioni and the ICD Stuttgart. So the pavilion consists of two CLT roof panel and supported by 8 columns. And first, the prefabricated column and the CLT panels will be first installed in place, and the robot will be moved on site to reinforce the panels from underneath, and assemble the discrete stakes into a continuously beam network from below. So this is a process roof panel for hoisted in place. And after that, at the construction site, the robot platform will first localize itself by recognizing the pre-laid markers on the CLT panel with the Intel's real-sense camera that is mounted on the effector of the robot. So after that, the robot will grab elements from the storage and apply glue at the glue station, and then place the element in place, and finally fix it with multi-nails. And the final beam network reinforced the roof actually achieve a maximum span of 5 meters with a thickness of only 60 millimeter. And also we think this research could be a valuable start point for, and also a valuable reference for more flexible design and construction of multi-story timber buildings, and which could be effectively expand the design, expand the freedom with this high adaptability to a different floor plan. And yeah, that's all my presentation. And thanks again to the Future Organizing Committee for giving me this award. And also thank you for your listening.
Yeah, Huishai, thank you very much for the amazing presentation. This very rich work that you have done throughout the last years, and I really love the timber work you've been doing. I mean, it's really sophisticated and very refined. So also, again, congratulations to you for the Young Award of Digital Futures 2022. And with this, I think we come to a closure for the Young Awards, and I'll pass on to, I guess, Philippe.
Thank you so much, Matthias. I guess, yes, Philippe, we can have the last words from you.
Thank you. Thanks. It's a really long summer. Actually, we spent like 5 weeks, including PhD consortium. Actually, Patrick is here. Patrick gave 6 lectures last week. Every day, 2.5 hours. So it's a really long week. And thanks a lot for the team. Actually, we have the very strong committee. Actually, in our Architecture Intelligence Committee, we have the expertise and represent architects and of professors, more than 60 members in our committee. I think that's a really strong community in the world. I think it's not based on certain continent or certain time zones. Digital Future is a very important platform for the free and open education to all the young generation and practitioners. So thanks a lot for your participants. And Neil, would you like to address your some remark? You're mute.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. I want to just simply thank everyone again. Just, I mean, I think this is so important because this sort of solidarity, this willingness to give up on time for other people is really remarkable in a world where everyone's grabbing things for themselves. And so I just want to repeat, first of all, the workshop instructors. What a fabulous job you've done. I've seen some of the results. I look forward to seeing more in the weeks to come. So generous of you. I really appreciate that. I wanted the team that's been working so hard. You can't exaggerate that. They've been working all night, literally a lot of the time. That was so fabulous. I look forward to continuing this forwards, onwards, upwards, as it were. I mean, we've got some wonderful new doctoral consortium sessions coming up in the next few months. We're going to be doing more in the Legends series, and we're going to be translating everything into different sort of languages. Next week, we're hoping to interview Peter Cook. We're hoping to interview Liz Diller, and so on and so on. I think it's simply a kind of like we're moving on to something bigger and better, and each time it gets better. So I just want to thank this completely international community who put this together. Fabulous contribution, and I look forward to 12 months more of incredible activity and contributing to education worldwide. We want to try and democratize education. For us, education isn't a privilege of the rich. It's a human right, and we will continue doing all this for free, providing information, and hopefully contributing to a kind of a global brain, as it were. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Bavleen. Thank you, all those people who worked so hard on this particular thing, and especially the instructors. So I look forward to seeing some more. Thank you.
Bye-bye, and see you next year. Actually, all the events is coming every week, so looking forward. Thanks for your participants. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.